The ancients did not ask what the world was made of. They asked, what is the world woven from? They understood a truth we have since forgotten, a truth veiled by the noise of progress and the illusion of the separate self. They knew the universe is not a collection of disconnected objects, but a single, immense tapestry of relationships. Every star, every stone, every soul is a thread woven into a pattern so vast, so intricate, that to see it clearly is to understand your own place within it all. And yet, you feel it, don't you? The profound ache of separation, the feeling of being a solitary island in a vast, indifferent ocean. This loneliness, this subtle, persistent sense of not quite belonging, is the great malady of our time. But it is not a defect in you. It is not a sign of your failure. It is a symptom of a collective amnesia, a great forgetting of the language we were all born speaking. The language of empathy, the silent grammar of the heart. This is not a language of words, but of presence, not a language of the mind, but of the soul. It is a frequency, a vibration, a resonance that the deepest part of you still remembers, even if the conscious mind has lost the signal. You have tried, perhaps, to build bridges to others, using the tools you were given, the clumsy mechanics of conversation, the prescribed rituals of social engagement, only to feel the chasm remain. This is because the chasm is not outside of you, it is within. This journey we are about to embark upon is not about learning a new skill. It is not a guide to becoming more charismatic or likable. It is an act of remembering, an excavation. We will travel inward, past the fortress of the ego, beyond the ceaseless chatter of the inner narrator, and into the silent, sacred space where all things connect. We are going to quiet the world so you can hear the hum of the cosmos within your own chest. We are going to learn to listen again, not with our ears, but with our entire being. This is an invitation to come home, to step out of the exile of your own mind and remember the profound, unshakable truth of your existence. You are not a thread, you are the entire tapestry. Now, let us begin. Let us now go deeper into the source of this feeling, this pervasive sense of being apart. We must begin by examining the very ground upon which your loneliness stands. You believe it is solid ground, a fact of your existence, but it is a mirage. The feeling of separation that haunts your quietest moments is the result of a profound collective hypnosis. We shall call it the Great Forgetting. This forgetting is not a single event lost to history. It is a subtle, ongoing process, a spell woven into the fabric of our modern world, and it begins the moment you learn to say I. In your first years, you did not experience such a sharp division. The world was a fluid, magical extension of your own being. The warmth of your mother's embrace was your warmth. The texture of a leaf was your texture. The sound of rain was a song playing inside of you. There was no you over here and a world over there. There was only the flowing, unified river of experience. This was your natural state. This was truth. Then, the conditioning began. It was not malicious. It was, in many ways, necessary for survival. You were given a name, and with that name, an identity began to form, like the first sketch of a map. This is mine, that is yours. This is me, that is you. This is good, that is bad. With each label, each definition, a wall was built. With each judgment, a stone was laid. Your caregivers, your teachers, your society, all well-intentioned, handed you the tools to construct a self, and you became a masterful builder. You built a personality, a history, a collection of beliefs, desires, and fears. You built a complex and unique identity, and this identity, this construct, became your world. You mistook the map for the territory. This is the heart of the Great Forgetting. You were taught to believe that you are an island. Look at your island now. It has a unique geography, does it not? It has mountains of achievement, and valleys of sorrow. It has forests of cherished memories and deserts of hidden shame. It has a carefully tended coastline, the boundaries you present to the world. You have spent a lifetime decorating this island, fortifying it, protecting its shores from the perceived threat of other islands and the vast, unpredictable ocean. And you have done this so well, you have become so identified with the geography of your personal island that you have forgotten the most fundamental truth of your existence. I want you to do something now. I want you to quiet your mind just for a moment and bring your awareness away from the surface of your island. Move past the familiar landscape of your thoughts and worries. I want you to feel your way downwards, through the soil of your identity, through the bedrock of your personal history, and into the deep, dark, silent foundation beneath. Go deeper. Feel the landmass beneath the sandy shores begin to slope away into the water, the turbulent surface of the conscious mind. Now go even deeper, beneath the waves of emotion, past the currents of everyday anxiety. What do you find? The ground does not end. Your island does not float alone in the void. Beneath the water, it is connected. It is part of a vast, submerged continent. A single, unified landmass that connects your island to every other island you have ever perceived as separate. This underwater continent is the collective unconscious. It is the shared substance of being itself. The joy you feel is a tremor felt across this entire landmass. The private grief that you believe isolates you is a deep, resonant vibration that echoes through this shared foundation, touching the foundations of all other souls. Your most secret longings, your most profound fears, they are not yours alone. They are the ancient currents that flow through the bedrock of humanity. The great forgetting is the act of living your entire life on the surface of the island, obsessed with its unique weather patterns, while completely unaware that your very ground is held and supported by a reality infinitely more vast and connected than your surface-level identity. Living this way, as a separate island, is exhausting. It creates a state of perpetual, low-grade anxiety. You must constantly defend your borders. You must compare your island's size and features to others. You fear being eroded by the tides of others' opinions or submerged by the storms of life. You feel a desperate need for resources, for love, for validation, believing they must come from other, separate islands, leading to games of strategy, manipulation, and control. Burnout is the inevitable result of trying to be a self-sufficient island in a universe that is designed for continental connection. The loneliness you feel is the cold, deep water that seems to separate you. The very water that, if you look deeper, is simply the medium that fills the space above the land that already connects you. To reverse the great forgetting is not to destroy your island. Your unique personality, your life experiences, your individual consciousness, they are precious. They are a beautiful, unique expression of the whole. The goal is not to flatten the mountains and fill the valleys. The goal is to become aware of the continent. It is to live with the felt sense, the deep inner knowing, that while you are a unique point of expression on the surface, your roots are interwoven with everything. It is to understand that your strength does not come from the height of your mountains, but from the depth and breadth of your connection to the whole. This remembering is the first step. It is the foundational shift in perception upon which all true empathy is built. Before you can truly connect with another, you must first connect with the truth of your own being. You are not separate. You have never been separate. You are a manifestation of the whole. A wave that has temporarily forgotten it is the ocean. Your feeling of disconnection is a phantom pain, an echo of a wound that was never truly inflicted, but only imagined. It is the pain of believing a story, the story of you as a solitary, fragile island. But the story is not true, and deep down your soul knows it. It has been trying to send you messages all your life through moments of awe in nature, through the inexplicable feeling of connection with a stranger's gaze, through the profound resonance of art and music. These are glimpses, fissures in the illusion, reminders from the continent that it is still there, waiting for you to remember. Now, the question we must face is this. If this forgetting is a learned condition, a story we have been told, then who or what is the storyteller? What is the force, the architect within us that so diligently maintains the illusion of the island? We must now turn and face the builder of these walls. We must understand the architecture of the ego. We have named the condition, this great forgetting that convinces you of your solitude. We have seen that you are not an island, but a part of a vast, interconnected continent hidden beneath the turbulent waters of the conscious mind. And we are left with a critical question. Who is the architect of this illusion? Who is the tireless builder that maintains the perceived separation? The answer is a word you know well, a word often misunderstood, maligned, and treated as an enemy to be vanquished. The architect is the ego, but before you brace for a battle, before you draw a sword against this part of yourself, I ask you to pause. We are not here to wage war. War against the self is the very essence of suffering. We are here to understand. The ego is not a villain. It is not some malevolent entity that chose to imprison you. The ego is a survival mechanism born of necessity. It is the shell that forms around the soft, vulnerable consciousness of a child entering a world it perceives as separate and potentially dangerous. Its primary function, its entire reason for being, is to protect you. To understand the ego, you must see it not as your enemy, but as a masterpiece of psychological engineering, a fortress built to defend a kingdom of one. Let us now, with the gentle curiosity of an archaeologist, explore the architecture of this fortress. The foundation of every egoic fortress, without exception, is laid upon the bedrock of fear. It is the primordial fear of non-existence, the terror of annihilation that arises the moment consciousness identifies with a finite form. Once you believe I am this body, I am this name, I am this personality, you also implicitly believe I can be destroyed. From this single foundational fear, all other fears are born. The fear of not being enough, the fear of being rejected, the fear of pain, the fear of the unknown. This foundation is deep, and most of the time, we are entirely unaware of its existence. Yet it dictates the entire structure built upon it. Upon this foundation of fear, the great walls are erected. These walls are your beliefs. They are built stone by heavy stone from the moment you are born. Each stone is a conclusion drawn from experience, a rule handed down from your culture, a judgment absorbed from your family. The world is a dangerous place. I must work hard to be worthy of love. Vulnerability is weakness. I am not as good as them. I must be in control. These are not just thoughts. They are the very bricks of your reality, the ramparts from which you view the world. They feel solid, permanent, and true, but they are merely constructs. They define the perimeter of your known world, and everything outside these walls is deemed threatening, alien, or wrong. The walls provide a sense of safety, a sense of definition, but they do so at the cost of immensity. They keep you safe, but they also keep you small. From these walls rise the watchtowers. The watchtowers of the ego are the mechanisms of comparison and measurement. From these high, lonely perches, the ego relentlessly scans the horizon, not for genuine connection, but for information about its own standing. It looks at other fortresses and immediately begins to calculate. Is their wall higher? Is their territory larger? Do they seem happier inside? This is the birthplace of envy, jealousy, and the gnawing feeling of inadequacy. Or, if the ego perceives its own fortress as superior, the towers become a perch for pride, arrogance, and a subtle contempt for others. The watchtower is never at peace. Its entire function is to measure, to rank, to create a hierarchy of selves, which is a futile and endless task, for in a universe of infinite expression, all comparison is an act of violence against what is. And what of the approach to your fortress? It is likely surrounded by a moat. The moat of the ego is your emotional defense system. For some, it is a moat of cynicism and sarcasm, ensuring no one's sincerity can ever reach the walls. For others, it is a moat of intellectualism, using complex theories and rationalizations to keep the raw, unpredictable nature of human emotion at a distance. It can be a moat of aloofness, of feigned indifference, projecting an image that you need nothing and no one. This moat is clever. It gives the illusion of an open field while being a formidable obstacle. It allows you to engage with the world without ever being truly touched by it. Finally, we come to the most important feature of the fortress, the gatekeeper. The ego is this loyal, tireless, and profoundly anxious guard. Imagine him now. He has been on duty since you were a small child. He was created by a promise you made to yourself long ago. I will never be hurt like that again. He took this promise as a sacred vow. He is not evil. He is fiercely, tragically loyal. But decades of service, of seeing threats both real and imagined, have made him paranoid. His hearing has become selective. He listens for insults, for slights, for any sign of potential abandonment or criticism. He has a long memory for past battles and projects those old fears onto new faces. A partner's request for space is interpreted by the guard as the first step towards abandonment. A boss's constructive feedback is heard as a declaration that you are a failure. A friend's celebration of their own success is perceived as a statement about your lack of it. This guard is operating from an outdated manual, reacting to the ghosts of yesterday. He means well. He believes he is protecting the fragile sacred king or queen who resides deep within the castle, your true self. And this is the core of the tragedy. You are not the guard. You are the ruler of the kingdom, but you have been asleep, or perhaps in hiding, for so long that you have forgotten your own sovereignty. You have abdicated the throne to this overzealous, fear-driven servant, and so you live as a prisoner in your own fortress. You peer through a tiny barred window, longing for the world outside. You ache for connection, for intimacy, for the feeling of being truly seen. And yet, every time an envoy of love, a messenger of connection, or a traveler seeking genuine exchange arrives at your gate, your loyal guard turns them away, brandishing his spear of judgment, suspicion, and fear. He screams, "You are a threat," and slams the gate shut, and you, inside, feel another pang of loneliness, mistaking the guard's actions for your own choice. So what is to be done? Do you storm the castle, sword in hand, and attempt to slay this guard? Many spiritual paths suggest this, framing the ego as an enemy to be annihilated. But think what happens when you attack your own fortress. The guard's paranoia is justified. He now has a real enemy. He doubles his defenses, thickens the walls, and becomes even more vigilant. Fighting the ego only strengthens it. It reinforces the very patterns of conflict and separation you wish to transcend. The path forward is not one of war, but of radical compassion. It is the path of the wise ruler finally awakening from their slumber. You do not kill the loyal guard. You walk calmly to the gate. You look him in the eye, and for the first time you see his exhaustion, his fear, his unwavering but misguided devotion, and you speak to him with the authority of your true self. You say, "Thank you. Thank you for your tireless service. You have protected me for a lifetime, and I am eternally grateful. But the great war you have been fighting is over. The kingdom is no longer under siege. I am safe now. I can stand on my own. You may lay down your arms. You may rest." This is the act of opening the gates. It is not a single event, but a continuous practice. It is the practice of noticing the guard's habitual reactions without judgment, It is the practice of choosing, consciously, to lower the drawbridge and greet the world with openness, even when the guard is screaming in your ear that it is not safe. To do this, to reclaim your kingdom, you must first learn to distinguish your own calm, sovereign voice from the constant, anxious muttering of the guard at the gate. You must become intimately familiar with his stories, his fears, his ceaseless narration of your life. We have stood before the fortress of the ego. We have acknowledged its purpose not as a prison, but as a misguided sanctuary, and we have met its loyal but paranoid gatekeeper. We have resolved not to fight this guard, but to compassionately relieve him of his duty. But to do this, to truly reclaim the throne of your own consciousness, you must first become aware of his primary weapon, his most pervasive tool of control. It is not a sword, nor a shield. It is a voice, the voice in your head, the ceaseless narrator. Listen right now. Even as you hear my words, he is there, isn't he? Commenting, analyzing, judging. Is this true? I've heard this before. What does this mean for me? When will this be over? He is the roommate you never chose, the one who never pays rent and never, ever stops talking. He is the broadcaster on the internal radio station, Radio Me. And the broadcast has been running continuously since you were a child. There are no commercial breaks. There is no off switch. This narrator's voice is so constant, so intimately woven into the fabric of your moment-to-moment experience that you have made the most profound and devastating error a human being can make. You have mistaken it for yourself. Let us examine the content of this broadcast. The narrator is a master storyteller, but his library is surprisingly limited. He has 3 favorite genres. The first is historical drama. He is an obsessive historian of your own life, but a poor one. He constantly unearths past events, not for insight, but for fuel. He replays conversations from a week ago, a year ago, a decade ago, endlessly editing the script. I should have said this. If only I had done that. He pores over old humiliations, polishing them until they gleam with shame. He replays old hurts, picking at the scabs until they bleed again. He is a master of regret, convincing you that your present happiness is held hostage by a past that cannot be changed. His second favorite genre is fantasy, or more specifically, horror and disaster fiction. He is a tireless fortune teller, constantly gazing into a crystal ball that only ever shows you what could go wrong. He crafts intricate, detailed narratives of future failure and loss. What if I lose my job? What if they don't like me? What if I get sick? What if I make the wrong decision? He presents these anxious fictions as pragmatic preparation, but they are not. They are chains. They are phantom fears that keep you from taking risks, from being vulnerable, from embracing the beautiful, unpredictable flow of life. He makes you live in 1,000 potential tragedies, none of which have happened, sacrificing the reality of this present moment on the altar of a fearful imagination. Finally, his most practiced genre is commentary and judgment. He is the ultimate critic. Nothing escapes his review. He judges you. You're not smart enough. You're not working hard enough. You're lazy. He judges others. Why are they dressed like that? They shouldn't have said that. They have it so much easier than me. He judges situations. This is bad. This is good. This is unfair. This incessant labeling is the ego's primary method for maintaining the walls of the fortress. By reducing the infinite complexity of life to a series of simplistic, dualistic judgments, it creates a false sense of order and control. It reinforces the illusion of me, the judge, versus that, the thing being judged. This voice, this ceaseless narrator, is the very sound of the ego trying to maintain its existence. Its chatter is the engine that keeps the illusion of the separate self running, and the belief that you are this voice is the deepest trance of all. When you believe you are the narrator, You are hopelessly lost. You are a leaf blown about by the wind of your own unexamined thoughts. The narrator's anxiety becomes your anxiety. The narrator's judgment becomes your self-worth. The narrator's story of victimhood becomes your reality. You cannot truly connect with another human being because you are not even fully present in your own body. You are trapped in a movie theater inside your own head, watching a film about your life instead of actually living it. How can you listen to the truth of another when you are deafened by the propaganda of your own inner narrator? Here is where the true work begins. Here is where we find our freedom. I want you to consider a new metaphor. Imagine your stream of thoughts. This narration is a river. For your entire life, you have believed that you are the river. When it is a raging, muddy torrent of anger, you say, "I am angry." When it is a stagnant, murky pool of sadness, you say, "I am sad." You are swept along by its currents, dashed against the rocks of its anxieties, and stained by the silt of its regrets. You spend all your energy trying to dam the river, to divert its course, to clear its waters, an exhausting and utterly futile struggle. Now, consider this possibility. You are not the river, you are the riverbed. Feel the shift in that. The riverbed does not fight the river. It does not try to control it. It simply allows it to flow. The nature of the river is movement, change, and turbulence. The nature of the riverbed is stillness, presence, and unwavering stability. The riverbed holds the river, contains it, gives it a path, but it is not defined by it. A raging flood does not change the fundamental nature of the stone and earth beneath. The muddiest waters do not stain the bedrock. The riverbed's essence is peace. This is your true nature. You are not the thoughts. You are the silent, aware space in which the thoughts arise and pass away. You are the consciousness that perceives the narrator. The one who hears the voice is not the voice. The one who is aware of the sadness is not the sadness. This awareness, this silent presence, this is the riverbed. This is you. So how do we live from this place? How do we stop being swept away by the river? The practice is one of simple, non-judgmental observation. The goal is not to stop the river. You cannot stop thoughts from happening any more than you can command the clouds to stop moving. The goal is to cease identifying with them. When a thought of worry arises, you simply notice it. You can even label it gently in your mind, worrying, or, the narrator is telling a disaster story again. When a thought of self-judgment appears, you notice it, judging. In that moment of noticing, a space is created. In that space between the thought and your awareness of the thought, freedom is born. You have stepped out of the river and onto the bank. You are no longer being carried away. You are now the witness, the observer, the silent presence watching the river of your mind flow by. Sometimes the river will be clear and sparkling. Sometimes it will be dark and turbulent. It does not matter. You are the riverbed. Your peace is not dependent on the condition of the water. This is the beginning of all true connection. When you can rest as the riverbed of your own being, you stop projecting your inner narrative onto the world. You stop seeing others through the distorted lens of your own fears and judgments. For the first time, you can be truly present with another person, offering them the greatest gift you have, the vast, silent, accepting space of your own awareness. You create a space for their river to be. To find this space, this silent riverbed of being, we must be willing to do what our modern world fears most. We must be willing to embrace the profound and creative power of silence. We have met the ceaseless narrator, the voice of the ego that populates our inner world with a constant stream of commentary, judgment, and fear. We have recognized that this inner noise is the primary obstacle to peace and the ultimate barrier to connection. We stand at a threshold, having made a profound realization. To hear the world, to hear another, to hear our own true self, we must first get quiet. We must be willing to do the one thing our noisy, distracted culture fears the most. We must learn to embrace the potent, creative, and transformative power of silence. In our world, silence is treated as a vacuum, an empty space to be filled as quickly as possible. It is the awkward pause in a conversation, the dead air on a radio broadcast, the uncomfortable void we rush to populate with music, with podcasts, with chatter, with anything to avoid the confrontation with nothingness. But this is a profound misunderstanding of what silence truly is. Silence is not the absence of something, it is the presence of everything. It is the canvas upon which the masterpiece of sound is painted. It is the vast, dark sky that gives the stars their brilliance. Without silence, sound has no meaning, no definition, no impact. It is just an undifferentiated roar. Silence is the fundamental context for all of existence. It is the riverbed of being we spoke of, the unmoved ground that allows the river of life to flow. To fear silence is to fear the very ground of your own being. So why do we fear it so? We fear it because the ego, the ceaseless narrator, cannot survive in it. The ego is a creature of noise and reaction. It defines itself by its commentary, by its stories, by its constant doing and thinking. In true silence, the narrator is unemployed. It has nothing to react to, nothing to judge, nothing to analyze. It is faced with its own irrelevance, its own potential dissolution, and this feels like a death. When you willingly enter silence, you are withdrawing the fuel from the ego's engine. And so, it panics. It will throw everything it has at you to get you to re-engage with noise. It will dredge up your most anxious thoughts, your most painful memories, your most urgent to-do lists. It will create an inner cacophony to protest the outer quiet. We fear silence because, in silence, we can no longer hide from ourselves. The unresolved emotions we have sedated with distraction begin to surface. The uncomfortable truths we have buried under productivity begin to stir. This fear is a signpost. It is the dragon guarding the entrance to the cave where the treasure is hidden. Your freedom lies on the other side of this manufactured fear. Let us explore a new metaphor. Think of silence as a field of rich, dark, fertile soil, and think of words, especially words of meaning and connection, as seeds. In our everyday interactions, we are like frantic, unskilled farmers. We stand on pavement, on the hard, impenetrable concrete of a mind filled with noise, and we hurl handfuls of seeds at each other. The seeds of our feelings, our ideas, our apologies, our love. They bounce off, unheard, unreceived. We wonder why we do not feel understood, why our words have no impact. It is because we have not prepared the ground. True communication, the kind that forges empathy and builds bridges between souls, requires us to first cultivate a shared field of silence. It is an act of presence. When you sit with another person and offer them your silent, focused attention, you are not offering them an emptiness. You are co-creating a sacred space, a fertile ground. Then, when a word is spoken into that silence, it is not just a fleeting sound, it is a seed that lands in the rich soil. It has a chance to be absorbed, to take root, to germinate into true understanding. The pauses in a conversation are not a failure of communication. They are the most vital part of it. They are the moments of absorption. They are the silent rain and sun that allow the seed to sprout. To rush to fill every silence is to constantly plow a field before anything has a chance to grow. It is an act of profound impatience that guarantees a barren harvest. Think of the most deeply connected moments of your life. Were they filled with chatter, or were they steeped in a powerful, communicative silence? The shared silence of watching a glorious sunset, when both you and your companion know that any word would diminish the experience. The comfortable, easy silence between old friends, where years of understanding have made words superfluous. The holy silence that holds a person who is grieving, a silence that says, "I am here. I am not trying to fix you. I can bear witness to your pain." The electric, charged silence between two people before a first kiss, a silence more articulate and profound than any poem. In these moments, something extraordinary happens. The ceaseless narrators in both minds temporarily step back. The egoic guards lower their weapons. The fortresses lower their drawbridges. What is communicating is not the constructed personalities, but the underlying essence, the shared being. This is the vibration of silence. It is not an auditory vibration, but a resonance of consciousness. It is the direct, unmediated recognition of the self in the other. It is the felt sense of the shared continent beneath the water, the deep hum of the universal reality that connects you both. This is the language your soul has been longing to speak. It is a language of feeling, of presence, of shared energy. It is the only language that can never lie. How then do we practice this? How do we become fluent in the language of silence in a world that screams? We start small. We practice not by forcing the mind to be quiet, but by inviting silence in. Begin with external silence. Carve out 5 minutes in your day to simply be, without auditory input. No music, no podcasts, no television, just you and the ambient sounds of your environment. Take a walk and leave your headphones at home. Listen to the sound of your own footsteps, the wind, the distant traffic. Let the world's sounds be the content of the silence, rather than a distraction from it. Then, you practice internal silence. This is the practice of becoming the riverbed. When you feel overwhelmed by the narrator's chatter, bring your attention to something physical and present. Feel the sensation of your feet on the floor. Notice the intricate network of feelings in your hands. Follow the simple, rhythmic sensation of your own breath entering and leaving your body. These are not distractions. They are anchors. They are anchors that pull your awareness out of the noisy river of thought and into the silent, vast riverbed of your body's presence. Finally, you bring this practice into your connections with others. The next time you are in a conversation, try an experiment. When the other person finishes speaking, do not immediately formulate your reply. Instead, take one conscious breath. Let their words land. Let there be a moment of silent space. Notice your own urge to fill it, the narrator's panic, and just allow the space to be. You will find that in that sacred pause, a deeper, more intuitive understanding arises. Your reply, when it comes, will emerge not from the reactive ego, but from a place of genuine presence. This is the foundation. Cultivating silence is preparing the ground of your being. It is the act of transforming the concrete of your noisy mind back into the rich, fertile soil of presence. When you learn to rest in this silence, to find your home in it, you are finally ready for the next stage of our journey. You are ready to discover what it means to truly listen. Once you have cultivated this sacred ground of silence, you are ready to learn the art of listening not with your ears, but with your entire being. We have prepared the ground. We have cultivated the fertile soil of silence, learning to quiet the inner world so that we might finally perceive the outer one. We have found our anchor in the still, silent riverbed of being, learning to watch the river of thought flow by without being swept away. Now, with this sacred space established, we are ready to undertake one of the most profound and transformative practices available to a human being. We are ready to learn how to listen. You may think you already know how to listen. It is something we have done all our lives. But I must ask you to consider that what we typically call listening is not listening at all. It is a different activity, one that is driven entirely by the ego. Let us first examine this common form of interaction. Hearing is a passive, biological process. Sound waves enter the ear, are translated into electrical signals, and are processed by the brain. It is an automatic sensory function. But egoic listening is an active, strategic mental process. It is listening with an agenda. It is listening in order to reply. Observe yourself in your next conversation. Notice the activity of your mind as the other person is speaking. Is it quiet? Is it open? Or is it frantically busy? The ceaseless narrator is hard at work. It is formulating a rebuttal, preparing a counter-argument. It is searching its vast archives for a similar story of its own, waiting for a fractional pause to interject with, "Oh, that reminds me of the time I..." It is diagnosing the speaker's problem and already scripting the perfect advice, the perfect solution. It is judging what is being said, labeling it right or wrong, interesting or boring. In this state, you are not truly listening to the other person. You are using their words as a set of cues to trigger your own internal broadcast. The person speaking is not a soul being witnessed. They are an audition for your narrator's next monologue. This is not connection. It is a sequence of intersecting monologues, a subtle and often unconscious competition for airtime. And it is the reason we so often feel more alone after a conversation than we did before it. There is another way. A way of listening that is not a mental activity, but a state of total presence. A way of listening not just with the ears, but with the entire field of your awareness. This is the art of listening with your entire being. Its foundation is the central idea we must grasp. To truly listen is not to wait for your turn to speak. It is to offer your presence as a sacred space for another's truth to unfold. It is the most profound act of generosity you can offer, for in a world of distraction, the rarest and most precious commodity is the purity of another's undivided attention. To understand this, let us use a new metaphor. Imagine that your consciousness, your presence, is a beautiful, empty bowl. In egoic listening, your bowl is already full to the brim with your own water, your opinions, your experiences, your advice, your stories. When another person tries to pour their truth, their feelings, their story into your already full bowl, what happens? Their water simply spills over the sides, unreceived, creating a mess on the table between you. Nothing has been truly shared. Nothing has been truly taken in. To listen with your entire being is to consciously, deliberately, and lovingly empty your bowl. As you prepare to listen, you make a silent, sacred intention. You set aside, just for this moment, your need to be right. You set aside your brilliant advice. You set aside your fascinating, related story. You set aside your judgments about their situation. You set aside your own narrator. You become an empty vessel. You become a vast, open, and receptive space. The purpose of this empty bowl is not to analyze, to fix, or to change what is poured into it. The sole sacred purpose of the bowl is to hold it, to contain the other person's truth with strength, with clarity, and with unwavering acceptance. When a person feels this quality of space being offered to them, something miraculous occurs. They feel safe, they feel honored, they feel seen, and in that safety, they are able to pour out what is truly within them. Not the guarded, surface-level story, but the deeper, more vulnerable truth that lies beneath. In the resonant space of your empty bowl, they begin to hear themselves for the first time. The tangled knots of their own thoughts and feelings begin to loosen. The simple healing act of being held in your awareness allows them to find their own clarity. You do not need to offer them a solution. Your presence is the solution. Your listening is the healing. This is not a passive act. It requires the engagement of your entire being. You listen with your eyes, noticing the subtle language of their body. Is their posture open or closed? What do you see in their gaze? You listen with your body, aware of the feelings that resonate within your own system as they speak. Can you feel a shadow of their sadness in your own chest, or a flicker of their joy? This is not about taking on their emotion, but about using your own body as a finely tuned instrument for empathy. You listen for the feeling beneath the facts. The words are just the surface of the river. What is the current of emotion flowing underneath? Is it fear? Is it longing? Is it shame? Is it hope? To listen this way is to master the art of the sacred pause. When they stop speaking, you resist the conditioned impulse to immediately fill the void. You hold the space. You let the silence breathe. You offer them the gift of an extra moment, an invitation to go deeper if they choose. It is often in the silence after the words that the most important truth emerges. And above all, you release the desperate need to fix them. Recognize that this need to fix is an egoic impulse. It is your narrator's attempt to relieve your own discomfort with their pain. The most empowering message you can send through your listening is not, "I can solve this for you," but rather, "I am here with you in this. I am not afraid of your darkness or your confusion, and I have absolute faith in your own inner wisdom to find your way through." This practice is transformative, not just for the person being heard, but for you, the listener. When your own inner narrator is quiet, when your only task is to be a vessel of pure presence, your inner world becomes calm and spacious. Listening becomes a profound meditation. The frantic energy of the ego is replaced by the calm, steady strength of being. You are no longer depleted by conversation. You are nourished by it. You are offering a gift, and in doing so, you receive the gift of peace. You step out of the prison of your own story and into the vast, shared reality of the human experience. And when this happens, when you have truly mastered the art of emptying your bowl to make space for another, a strange and beautiful phenomenon occurs. As you gaze into the clear, still contents of their truth, held so reverently within the space of your presence, you will inevitably see a reflection. In the patterns of their fear, you will recognize your own. In the depths of their longing, you will feel the echo of yours. In the light of their joy, you will see a spark of your own. We must now dare to look at what that reflection shows us. We must now explore the mirror of the other. We have arrived at a place of profound stillness. By becoming the empty bowl, by offering the sacred space of our silent presence, we have created the conditions for a miracle. In that clear, undisturbed space of true listening, something begins to shimmer into view. It is a reflection. When we quiet our own ceaseless narrator and truly witness another, we are no longer looking out at a separate alien being. We are, in fact, gazing into a mirror, and what it shows us is the key to unlocking the deepest levels of empathy and self-awareness. This is one of the most challenging and transformative truths of the spiritual path. Life is not a random series of encounters. It is a perfectly designed hall of mirrors. Every person you meet, every relationship you form, every interaction you have is a mirror held up to you, reflecting a facet of your own consciousness that you need to see. The universe, in its infinite intelligence and compassion, does not leave your growth to chance. It orchestrates a constant stream of reflections, a personalized curriculum designed for your soul's evolution. Nothing is accidental. Everyone is your teacher. Everyone is your reflection. The world is not happening to you. It is happening for you and through you. To embrace this principle is to step out of the story of victimhood forever and into the power of conscious creation. Let us begin with the mirrors that are easiest to notice, for they are the ones that disturb us the most. These are the negative mirrors. Think of a person in your life who consistently irritates you, angers you, or provokes a strong negative reaction within you. Think of a specific quality they possess that you simply cannot stand. Perhaps it is their perceived arrogance, their laziness, their neediness, their loudness, their dishonesty. You have a story about this quality. You have judged it as bad, wrong, and unacceptable. Your powerful emotional reaction, your energetic charge, is a giant, flashing arrow pointing not at their flaw, but at a disowned part of your own psyche. This is the phenomenon of shadow projection. The shadow, a term popularized by the great psychologist Carl Jung, consists of all the parts of ourselves that we have deemed unacceptable and therefore repressed into the unconscious. As children, we learn very quickly which aspects of our personality are rewarded and which are punished. Perhaps our natural ambition was labeled as bossy, so we suppressed it. Perhaps our need for rest was called lazy, so we disowned it. Perhaps our emotional sensitivity was deemed too dramatic, so we buried it. We cut off these parts of ourselves and cast them into the darkness of the unconscious to ensure our survival and belonging. But they do not disappear. They live within us, and they long for integration, for light. And the primary way they get our attention is by showing up in the people around us. When you are intensely triggered by an arrogant person, you are looking into a mirror. It may be a direct mirror. You possess a hidden arrogance or a deep-seated pride that your ego refuses to acknowledge. You see it and judge it in them because you cannot bear to see it and accept it in yourself. Or, more subtly, it may be an inverted mirror. You may have so violently suppressed your own natural ambition, your own right to take up space and be recognized, that you cannot stand to see another person do it freely. Their freedom highlights your own self-imposed cage, and that is infuriating. The charge you feel is the energy of your own disowned part screaming for recognition. Consider the person you judge as lazy or undisciplined. Does their capacity for rest and inaction trigger your anxiety? Look within. Is it possible that you have built your entire identity on being productive, on being a doer? Have you denied your own body's deep need for stillness and non-achievement? Their state of being is a mirror reflecting your own exhaustion and the terror you feel at the thought of stopping, because your narrator has convinced you that your worth is dependent on your productivity. They are not the problem. The problem is your rigid, self-imposed prison of constant effort. This principle holds true for every negative trigger. The person you find intolerably needy is mirroring the profound dependency and vulnerability you have denied in yourself, having decided long ago that needing anyone is a weakness. The dishonest person is reflecting back to you the ways, both big and small, in which you are not living in full integrity with your own truth, the white lies you tell yourself and others. The spiritual practice here is one of radical self-inquiry. The next time you feel that powerful surge of irritation or judgment towards another, stop. Turn the pointing finger around. Get quiet and ask yourself with courageous honesty. 1. What is the specific quality or behavior that is triggering me? 2. Where in my own life do I exhibit a version of this same quality, even if it's only in my thoughts or in a more subtle form? And 3. If I cannot find it in my actions, where have I ruthlessly suppressed this quality in myself? What am I so afraid would happen if I allowed myself to embody just a fraction of that trait? This is the work of owning your own shadow. The goal is not to condone harmful behavior in the world. The goal is to withdraw your energetic hook from it. When you reclaim that disowned part of yourself, when you admit, yes, a part of me is also arrogant, or yes, a part of me deeply longs for rest, the trigger dissolves. The other person may not change, but you do. You are no longer their judge. You are a neutral observer. You have taken back your power, and you have become more whole. But the Hall of Mirrors is not just filled with these shadowy reflections, it is also filled with mirrors of dazzling golden light. These are the positive mirrors. Think now of a person you deeply admire, someone you are fascinated by, perhaps even a little envious of. What are the qualities they embody that captivate you? Is it their unshakable confidence, their wild creativity, their profound compassion and grace, their fearless authenticity? Just as the negative trigger points to your disowned shadow, this powerful pull of admiration points to your disowned light. These qualities you see and adore in others are a direct reflection of your own dormant potential. You would not be able to recognize these beautiful traits if the seed of them did not already exist within you. A string on a guitar will only vibrate in response to a sound wave that matches its own resonant frequency. Likewise, your consciousness can only resonate with a quality positive or negative that is already present within its own field of potentiality. When you look at a confident, charismatic person and feel a sense of awe, you are looking into a mirror of your own potential for leadership and self-assurance, a potential that may be buried under layers of self-doubt. Their light is simply reminding you of your own. When you are mesmerized by the free-spirited artist, you are seeing a reflection of your own creative impulse, your own inner wildness that you may have caged in the name of practicality and responsibility. When you feel deep reverence for a person of immense compassion and patience, you are not seeing a being alien to you. You are seeing a reflection of your own highest self, your Buddha nature, your Christ consciousness. You are seeing who you truly are, beyond the fortress of the ego. The practice here is to move from passive admiration to active ownership. Instead of placing these people on a pedestal and thinking, "I could never be like that," you must learn to say, "The beautiful quality I see in you is also in me. It is a reflection of my own sleeping potential. I see it, I acknowledge it, and I claim it." This practice transforms the painful sting of envy into the joyful fuel of inspiration. It turns heroes into mirrors, reminding you that any greatness you can see in the world is but a reflection of the greatness that resides within you, waiting to be embodied. Between the charged negative mirrors and the dazzling positive ones lies a third type, the neutral mirror. This is the vast majority of people you encounter. The person at the grocery store, the stranger on the bus, the colleague you have no strong feelings about. They do not trigger you, positively or negatively. Why? Because they are reflecting back to you the parts of yourself that you have already accepted. Your relationship with them is peaceful because you are at peace with the aspects of yourself they mirror. This state of neutrality, of calm observation without energetic charge, is the ultimate goal of this work. It is a state of profound peace, where you can walk through the world seeing the vast spectrum of human behavior and think, "Yes, that is in me too," without judgment or attachment. Embracing this truth that everyone is your mirror is the end of blame and the beginning of radical responsibility. It dissolves the illusion of separation in the most practical way imaginable. How can you maintain judgment against another when you know, with certainty, that you are only judging a disowned piece of yourself? How can you feel separate from another's success when you recognize it as a reflection of your own potential? The wall between self and other crumbles. Every interaction becomes an opportunity for healing and integration. The world transforms from a battlefield of competing egos into a sacred classroom for the soul. And as you stand in this hall of mirrors, learning to embrace your shadow and your light, you begin to notice one reflection that appears in every single mirror, without exception. It is the one thing that binds the saint and the sinner, the hero and the villain, the one you admire and the one you despise. Beneath the surface-level personality traits that we project upon, there is a deeper, more fundamental reflection. It is the shared human experience of being fragile, of being mortal, of carrying pain. To master empathy in its most profound form, we must now be willing to gaze unflinchingly into the mirror and not turn away when we see the reflection of our own pain in the eyes of another. We must learn to honor the sacred wound. We have walked through the great hall of mirrors, learning to see ourselves in all that we encounter. We have faced the disowned shadow and claimed the dormant light. And in every reflection, from the most troubling to the most inspiring, we have begun to notice a common thread, a universal watermark. It is the subtle, unmistakable shimmer of pain. We have arrived at the understanding that the shared experience of being wounded is the deepest reflection of all, the very bedrock of the continent that connects our separate islands. Now, we must do more than simply notice this reflection. We must step into it. We must dare to re-examine the very thing we have spent our lives trying to escape, to fix, or to hide. We must learn to honor the sacred wound. From the moment we first experience pain, the sting of rejection, the ache of loss, the shame of failure, we are taught to see it as a personal defect. Our wounds become our secret blemishes, the flawed parts of our story that we believe make us unlovable and separate us from others. We build the fortress of the ego around these wounds to protect them, to hide them from a world we fear would judge them. We become identified with the story of our pain. I am the one who was abandoned. I am the one who is broken. I am the one who can't trust. We believe this story isolates us. We believe our specific pain is a wall that cuts us off from the rest of humanity. This belief is the cruelest lie the ego ever tells. For the truth, the profound, life-altering truth, is this: your pain is not a barrier to connection. It is the gateway. The very wound that you believe isolates you is your most direct and sacred point of contact with every other soul on this planet. Let us look closely at your wound, acknowledge its specific shape and texture. The unique story attached to it is real. The betrayal was real. The loss was real. The failure was real. The specific narrative of your pain is yours and yours alone, and it deserves to be honored. But now, I ask you to do something courageous. I ask you to look beneath the story. Peel back the layer of the specific who, what, and when, and feel into the raw emotion at its core. Beneath the story of a parent's neglect is the raw feeling of abandonment. Beneath the story of a partner's infidelity is the raw feeling of rejection and unworthiness. Beneath the story of a career failure is the raw feeling of shame. Beneath the story of a sudden loss is the raw feeling of grief and powerlessness. Now, look at these raw feelings: abandonment, rejection, unworthiness, shame, grief. Are these feelings personal to you, or are they the universal inheritance of the human heart? The king in his castle knows the sting of rejection. The saint in her monastery knows the ache of grief. The person you admire most and the person you despise most have both been intimately acquainted with the cold touch of fear and the bitter taste of shame. The stories are infinitely varied, as unique as fingerprints. But the underlying pain, the core emotional frequency, is universal. It is the shared language of our species, a language spoken not in words, but in the silent chambers of the heart. This is where our perspective must shift. This is where we begin to see our wounds as sacred. Let us use this metaphor. Imagine your personal story of pain is a single dark thread. For most of your life, you have held this thread clutched in your hand. You have studied its every knot, its every frayed end. You have compared its ugliness to the seemingly perfect golden threads of others. Holding only your thread, you feel utterly alone, cursed with this tangled, broken piece of string. Now, I invite you to perform an act of sacred imagination. I invite you to step back. As you step back, your focus softens, and you begin to see that your single, dark thread is not lying alone in a void. It is, in fact, interwoven with another thread, and another, and another. As you continue to pull back, a breathtaking image comes into view. You see that your thread is part of an immense and ancient tapestry, a fabric of unimaginable size and complexity. This tapestry is the story of humanity. It is woven with billions upon billions of threads, dark threads of sorrow, bright threads of joy, silver threads of peace, crimson threads of passion. From this new vantage point, you see the truth. The beauty and strength of this great human tapestry do not come from an absence of dark threads. On the contrary, the dark threads are essential. They provide the contrast that allows the golden threads of joy to shine. They create the patterns, the depth, the character, the meaning. A tapestry made of only light threads would be a flat, featureless, and uninteresting monochrome. Your dark thread of pain is not a flaw in the masterpiece. It is a vital, necessary, and beautiful part of it. Your wound is not your shame. It is your unique and sacred contribution to the richness of this shared human story. It is the very thing that makes you part of the whole. When you begin to see your own pain in this way, your relationship to the pain of others is revolutionized. Your wound ceases to be a barrier and becomes a bridge. It becomes an organ of perception, a new way of seeing. When you encounter another person acting out in anger, aggression, or arrogance, the old egoic mind would judge them as bad. But the heart that has honored its own wound sees differently. It looks past the fortress of their behavior and asks a new question: what pain is driving this? You see the frightened, wounded child behind the aggressive mask. You see their lashing out, not as a personal attack, but as a desperate, clumsy cry from their own place of pain. You cannot judge them, for you recognize the feeling. Their pain may be wearing a different costume, but you know its signature. This is the birth of true compassion. Your own healed, which does not mean erased, but rather integrated wound, becomes your greatest gift to the world. Because you know the landscape of your own grief, you can sit with a grieving friend in authentic, powerful silence, offering not cheap platitudes, but the profound comfort of shared humanity. Your presence says, "I know this place." You are not alone here. Because you have faced your own feelings of failure and shame, you can witness another's failure without judgment, providing the rare medicine of unconditional acceptance. Your pain becomes your superpower. It makes you a healer. It gives you the capacity to hold space for others in a way that someone who has denied their own wounds never could. You become a safe harbor, because you are no longer afraid of the storms within yourself or anyone else. This is what it means to honor the sacred wound. It means you stop running from your pain. You turn towards it. You get to know its contours, its textures, its lessons. You thank it for the depth it has carved into you, for the empathy it has awakened in you. You recognize it not as a mark of your separation, but as your badge of membership in the human family. It is the price of admission for a life of meaning. It is the initiation that cracks the heart open so that the entire world can fit inside. But to know this intellectually is one thing, to live it is another. To truly use our wound as a gateway for connection requires more than understanding. It requires an act of supreme bravery. It requires us to stop hiding our thread and instead to allow another to see it. To connect through the shared wound, we must be willing to show our own. The key that unlocks this sacred gateway is not hidden. It is simply terrifying to use. We must now speak of this key. We must now find the courage of vulnerability. We stand at the gateway. Before us lies the path to profound, authentic connection, a path that runs directly through the landscape of our shared pain. We have seen that our wound is not a wall but a doorway, and we have understood, intellectually, that it is the very thing that binds us to one another. But understanding is not enough. A map is not the journey. A key is not the turn of the lock. To cross this threshold, we must perform an act of immense bravery. We must willingly use the key we have been so terrified to touch. We must find within ourselves the courage of vulnerability. Let us first address the great cultural lie that surrounds this word. We have been taught that vulnerability is weakness. It is the spilling of emotion, the loss of control, the embarrassing display of neediness. The ego, our inner gatekeeper, has waged a masterful propaganda campaign, convincing us that to be vulnerable is to be a defenseless target in a hostile world. It equates vulnerability with being naive, unprofessional, or emotionally unstable. This definition is the ego's most potent defense mechanism, the lie it tells to keep us locked safely and miserably inside our fortress. The truth is the precise opposite. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is our most accurate measure of courage. It is not the absence of strength, but the purest expression of it. It is not an uncontrollable emotional flood, but a conscious, deliberate, and intentional choice. It is the choice to be seen in our imperfection, in our uncertainty, in our authentic humanity. Let us return to the metaphor of the fortress. Within its walls, you do not wander naked. You wear a suit of armor, custom forged by the ego to protect you from further injury. Think of this armor. The helmet is the helmet of certainty, the heavy steel of pretending you have all the answers, of never admitting, I don't know, or I need help. The breastplate is the breastplate of perfectionism, polished to a brilliant shine, designed to project an image of flawlessness, hiding every mistake, every struggle, every sign that you are anything less than perfectly put together. The gauntlets are the gauntlets of cynicism and sarcasm, used to keep emotional sincerity at a distance, ensuring you can never be accused of being too earnest or too soft. And the greaves, protecting your legs, are the greaves of stoicism, the grim refusal to show emotion, the commitment to answering, I'm fine, even when your inner world is collapsing. This armor has served a purpose. It has deflected the arrows of criticism and the spears of judgment, but it has come at a terrible cost. It is heavy, it constricts your breathing, it limits your movement, it chafes and it isolates. Encased in this iron shell, you cannot run freely through the fields of life. You cannot feel the warmth of the sun on your skin. You cannot receive the tenderness of a loving embrace. The armor that you believe is keeping you safe has in fact become your prison. Vulnerability is the courageous act of unbuckling the straps. It is the conscious choice to take off the armor, piece by piece, not because you are surrendering, but because you have decided that feeling connection is more important than feeling the illusion of safety. What does this act of disarming look like in practice? It is not, as the ego fears, standing in a public square and shouting your deepest traumas to the world. That is not vulnerability, that is emotional dumping, often another strategy of the ego. True vulnerability is more subtle, more specific, and far more powerful. It is the act of sharing your authentic reality in a given moment with someone who has earned the right to hear it. It is the alignment of your inner state with your outer expression. It is the courage to say, I made a mistake, without a follow-up sentence of blame or justification. It is the strength to say, I don't know the answer, in a room full of experts. It is the simple, terrifying act of asking for help when you are overwhelmed, instead of struggling onward in silent, resentful isolation. It is looking at someone you love and saying, you hurt me, instead of retaliating with your own weaponized anger. It is the profound bravery of expressing your love and appreciation for someone first, with no guarantee that it will be reciprocated. It is showing up to a difficult conversation with an open heart, rather than a prepared script of defenses. Each of these acts is a choice to remove a piece of armor. Each act feels like a risk, and each act is a powerful declaration of inner strength. This is the great paradox. The act of appearing defenseless is the ultimate demonstration of power. Why? Because it requires you to trust yourself. It requires you to know, on a level deeper than thought, that your self-worth is not contingent on another person's reaction. The ego's armor is a desperate attempt to control how others see you. Vulnerability is the release of that control. It is a statement that says, I am strong enough to be with the discomfort of uncertainty. I am secure enough in my own being to show you who I truly am, and I can handle the outcome, whatever it may be. The person encased in steel is the one who is truly afraid. The person standing with an open heart is the one who is truly fearless. Furthermore, vulnerability is not just an act of personal courage, it is a powerful invitation. When you choose to take off your armor in the presence of another, you are offering them the most sacred of gifts, permission. Your act of authenticity creates a resonant field that silently communicates to their guarded heart. It is safe to be real here. You do not need your armor with me. Think of your own experience. When a friend or a leader admits a struggle, confesses a doubt, or shares a moment of fear, do you lose respect for them? Or do you feel a surge of warmth, of trust, of connection? You do not see weakness. You see humanity. You see a mirror of your own struggles, and in that shared recognition, a bond is forged. Your vulnerability does not push people away. It is the very thing that draws them in. It is the catalyst that sparks the alchemy of connection, a reciprocal disarming where one person's courage liberates the other. This is the key that turns the lock on the gateway of the sacred wound. It is the choice to live an open-hearted life rather than a guarded one. It is the daily practice of choosing connection over the illusion of self-protection. It requires you to surrender your addiction to being right, to looking good, to being in control. It asks you to trade the heavy burden of your iron suit for the light, expansive, and sometimes aching freedom of a real feeling heart. It is the most courageous journey you will ever take. And this courageous act of laying down your armor, of choosing to stand in your authentic truth, has a profound and immediate consequence. From this open-hearted, vulnerable space, you begin to see the entire world through new eyes. The harsh, unforgiving lens of judgment, the very lens that was forged to protect your wound, begins to crack and shatter. It can no longer function in the bright light of your own accepted imperfection. In its place, a softer, clearer, more compassionate lens begins to form. From the courage of vulnerability, we are led directly and gracefully to the dissolution of judgment. We have taken the most courageous step. We have chosen to lay down the armor of the ego and stand in the open field of our own authentic, imperfect humanity. We have found the key of vulnerability and unlocked the gateway of the sacred wound. This single courageous act does more than just open us to connection. It initiates a profound chemical reaction within our own consciousness. It begins the process of dissolving the hardest, most toxic substance in the human psyche, the habit of judgment. Judgment is the mortar that holds the bricks of the ego's fortress together. It is the ego's primary tool for creating and maintaining the illusion of separation. With every act of judgment, the ego reinforces the story of me versus you, us versus them. It is a compulsive labeling machine, sorting the infinite, flowing complexity of life into simplistic, rigid boxes: good, bad, right, wrong, success, failure, worthy, unworthy. This is the incessant voice of the ceaseless narrator, the paranoid whisper of the gatekeeper. It is the very opposite of the open, undefended heart of vulnerability. You cannot be in a state of judgment and a state of authentic connection at the same time. They are mutually exclusive frequencies. To choose one is to forsake the other. Let us explore this through a metaphor. Imagine that your mind is a large pane of glass through which you view the world. When you were born, this glass was perfectly clear. You saw the world as it was, a vibrant, unified whole. But with every experience, every piece of conditioning, a mark was left upon the glass. When you were told, "Big kids don't cry," a smudge of stoicism was smeared across it. When you learned that a certain skin color or belief system or way of life was other, a colored stain was applied. Every rule, every expectation, every personal trauma, every cultural bias added another layer of grime, another distorting tint. Now, after decades of life, the glass you look through is no longer clear. It is covered in a thick, complex patina of your own history, and you have forgotten that the glass is there. You look out at the world and believe that the smudges, the colors, and the distortions are reality itself. You see a person acting from a place of fear, and instead of seeing their fear, the dirt on your glass labels them weak. You see someone with a different lifestyle, and instead of seeing their different path, the colored stain on your glass labels them wrong. You spend your days pointing at the world, complaining about how distorted and flawed it is, never realizing that you are simply describing the state of your own window. This is the mechanism of judgment. It is the tragic mistake of projecting the contents of your own conditioned mind onto reality and believing your projection to be the truth. To live this way is to carry a heavy, poisonous burden. Judgment requires a constant supply of energy. It feeds on indignation, resentment, and the brittle sense of superiority that comes from feeling you are right. It is an exhausting state of inner warfare, a constant resistance to the world as it is. It is, as the proverb says, like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. The only one harmed by the bitterness of your judgment is you. It pollutes your inner world, and most importantly, it makes true empathy impossible. You cannot connect with a person you are standing above, looking down upon. Connection happens on level ground, heart to heart, in a shared space of acceptance. Judgment builds a pedestal, compassion builds a bridge. Furthermore, judgment is almost always based on a lie, because it is a verdict delivered on catastrophically incomplete evidence. We see one single frame of another person's movie, one action, one sentence, one choice, and from that single frame, we presume to write and condemn their entire character. We have no access to the script of their life, no knowledge of their sacred wound, no understanding of the scenes that led up to the one we are witnessing. Our judgments are the height of arrogance, delivered with the conviction of a god from the perspective of an ant. What, then, is the antidote to this poison? If judgment is the accumulated grime on the window, compassion is the act of cleaning it. Compassion is not pity. Pity is a form of judgment, a condescending sorrow for another's perceived lesser state. Compassion is not agreement. It does not mean you condone or accept harmful behavior. Compassion, in its purest form, is the commitment to understanding. It is the radical acceptance of the reality of another's journey. It is the profound realization that, given their unique combination of life experiences, wounds, beliefs, and fears, their unique collection of stains upon their own window, their actions, from within their reality, make a certain kind of sense. The practice of dissolving judgment, then, is the practice of shifting your inner question. The judgmental mind asks, "What is wrong with them?" It is a question that seeks to condemn. The compassionate mind asks, "I wonder what their inner world must be like for them to be acting this way," or what pain might be driving this behavior. This simple shift is the bucket of clean water and the soft cloth. It does not excuse the action, but it moves you from a place of arrogant condemnation to one of humble, curious inquiry. It begins to dissolve the grime on your own window, allowing the light of understanding to shine through. This is where the courage of vulnerability becomes our greatest ally. When you have stood in the fire of your own imperfection, when you have admitted your own mistakes, when you have had the courage to expose your own wounded heart, the very foundation of judgment crumbles. From the humble ground of your own acknowledged humanity, how can you possibly stand in harsh judgment of another's? How can you condemn your neighbor for the speck of dust in their eye when you are so intimately aware of the plank in your own? You cannot. Your own vulnerability makes a mockery of your righteousness. It cleans your window automatically. When you accept your own messy, beautiful, flawed humanity, you have no choice but to accept it in others. You recognize them. You see that their struggle, though different in its details, is animated by the same universal forces that animate your own. This is the liberation that awaits on the other side of judgment. It is a profound sense of peace and lightness. The heavy burden of needing to be right is lifted. The world is no longer a hostile place filled with wrongness that you must constantly resist, but a complex, beautiful, and sometimes tragic tapestry of souls doing the best they can with the tools and the wounds they have been given. You move from the cramped, dark prison of your own opinions and into the vast, open space of acceptance. As you commit to this practice, as you choose compassion over condemnation again and again, your sight begins to change. As the layers of grime on your window become thinner and more transparent, you start to see things you never saw before. You see past the surface-level behavior. You see through the ego's defensive fortress. You begin to perceive the hidden motive, the universal need, the driving force behind even the most confusing or hurtful actions. With the glass of judgment wiped clean, we are granted a new kind of sight, a form of emotional X-ray vision. We can now look through the window and see not just the action, but its source. We are now ready to see the innocent intention. The glass of our perception is becoming clear. We have wiped away the distorting grime of judgment with the cloth of compassion, born from the courage of our own vulnerability. Standing before this clean window, we are granted a new and profound form of sight. We can begin to look past the confusing, difficult, and often painful behaviors of others and see into the hidden engine room of the human heart. Here, we are confronted with a radical and transformative proposition, one that the ego will fight with all its might. That behind every human act, no matter how misguided, destructive, or hurtful, lies an intention that is, at its core, innocent. Let us be perfectly clear. This is not a call to spiritual naivete. To see the innocent intention is not to condone the harmful action. A misguided act is still misguided. A hurtful act still causes pain. We are not erasing the consequences of behavior. We are, instead, performing a kind of psychological archaeology, digging beneath the rubble of a destructive act to find the original, pure seed from which it grew. The strategy may be wounded, broken, and tragically unskilled, but the seed, the original impulse, is a universal human need that you and I and every other person shares. To see this is to hold the key to a level of empathy so profound it can change the world, beginning with your own. What are these universal, innocent needs? They are the very currents that animate our lives. They are the fundamental drivers of every human soul. There is the need for safety, the deep, instinctual desire to feel secure in our bodies, our homes, and our hearts, to be free from physical and emotional threat. There is the need for love and connection, the longing to belong, to be seen, to be accepted for who we are, to give and receive affection. There is the need for recognition and worthiness, the desire to feel that our existence matters, that we have value, that we make a contribution. There is the need for autonomy and freedom, the drive to feel a sense of agency over our own lives, to make choices that are aligned with our own values. And finally, there is the foundational need to avoid pain and seek peace and well-being. Look at this list. Is there anything here that is not pure? Is there anything here that is not, at its heart, innocent? The desire to be loved is not evil. The desire to feel safe is not wrong. The desire to matter is not a flaw. These needs are the sacred architecture of our shared humanity. They are the engine. The tragedy of the human condition is not in our needs, but in the broken and wounded strategies we employ to meet them. Our strategies are not born of wisdom. They are born of our conditioning, our fears, and the shape of our sacred wound. A person who grew up feeling insignificant and unseen, the wound, may develop a strategy of constantly boasting and showing off to get the recognition they crave. We see the strategy arrogance and we judge it, but beneath it lies the pure, innocent, childlike need to be told, "You matter." A person who carries the wound of a chaotic and unsafe childhood may develop a strategy of trying to control everyone and everything around them. We see the strategy controlling and domineering, and we react to it. But beneath it lies the terrified inner child's innocent need to finally feel safe. The bully who terrorizes others is often acting from a tragically misguided strategy to meet a need for power and safety, born from a deep wound of feeling utterly powerless. The person who lies to you may be using a clumsy, painful strategy to meet an innocent need to avoid the pain of your anger, or to preserve a connection they fear the truth would break. The work of deep empathy is to train ourselves to look past the broken strategy and see the innocent need it is trying and failing to serve. To do this, we can use the metaphor of the iceberg. A person's behavior, their words, their actions, their tone of voice is merely the tip of the iceberg. It is the 10% that is visible above the water. This is what we are conditioned to react to. But the reality, the vast power and substance of the iceberg, is the 90% that lies unseen beneath the surface. Just below the water lie their current thoughts and tactical strategies. Deeper still are their feelings and emotions, the fear, the anger, the sadness. And at the very bottom, the immense, powerful base of the entire structure are their universal, innocent human needs. To see the innocent intention is to become a deep-sea explorer of the human psyche. It is to consciously stop reacting to the visible tip of the iceberg and, instead, to cultivate a profound curiosity about the massive, hidden structure beneath. It is to look at a hurtful or confusing behavior and ask the transformative question, what pure, universal need could this person be trying, however clumsily, to meet with this broken strategy? This practice will change every one of your relationships, starting with the one you have with yourself. When you are confronted by a difficult person, pause, take a breath, suspend the narrator's immediate story of blame and judgment, and in the quiet space you have created, ask with genuine curiosity, what if this person is not my enemy, but simply a fellow soul using a very poor tool to meet a need that I also share? Is their constant criticism a misguided attempt to feel in control, and thus to feel safe? Is their emotional withdrawal a clumsy strategy to avoid the pain of potential conflict? Is their relentless bragging a desperate plea for recognition from a heart that feels worthless? This inquiry does not mean you must tolerate their behavior. This is a critical point. You can and should set firm, clear, and loving boundaries against hurtful strategies. You can say, when you speak to me in that tone, I am not willing to continue the conversation. We can talk again when you are able to be respectful. Here, you are setting a boundary with the strategy, the iceberg's tip. But because you have practiced seeing the innocent need, you can do so without the poison of hatred or condemnation in your heart. You can hold compassion for the being while refusing to accept the behavior. This makes you not a doormat, but a person of immense wisdom and strength, someone who can protect their own peace without polluting it with resentment. This shift in perception, from judging the action to seeking the innocent intention, is the final dissolution of the us versus them mentality. It moves you from a world populated by good people and bad people into a world populated by fellow human beings, all of us using the limited, flawed, and often wounded strategies we learned in our lives to try and meet the same deep, pure, and innocent needs. You see your own needs reflected in their dysfunctional behavior. The illusion of separation thins to the point of transparency. And when you commit to this practice, when you consistently look for the innocent need behind the broken strategy, something profound begins to happen within you. It is not just a change in your thinking, it is a change in your very state of being. The heavy, abrasive energy of judgment is replaced by the light, warm, and flowing energy of understanding. Your inner world ceases to be a courtroom and becomes a sanctuary. You are no longer fighting the world. You are embracing it in all of its tragic, beautiful complexity. This practice of seeing the innocent intention is therefore more than a psychological technique. It is an act of energetic alchemy. It changes your own vibrational field. To look for innocence is to generate compassion. And compassion is not just a passive feeling or a noble idea, it is a frequency. It is a palpable, resonant energy that emanates from your being and begins to transform the very space you occupy. We must now explore the nature of this powerful energy. We must learn how to consciously attune ourselves to the frequency of compassion. We have journeyed far into the inner landscape. We have cleared the lens of judgment and learned to look beneath the troubled surface of human behavior to see the innocent, universal needs that drive us all. This practice of seeing is not merely a mental exercise. It is an act of profound, energetic alchemy. Each time you choose to look for the innocent intention in another, you perform a sacred act that resonates through the very fabric of your being. You begin to generate a new quality of energy, a new vibrational signature. We have called this energy compassion. Now, we must explore its true nature, for it is far more than a simple emotion. It is the master frequency of the universe, and learning to attune to it is the final key to unlocking a life of profound and effortless connection. Our language is limited. When we speak of compassion, we typically think of feeling a soft-hearted sympathy or pity for another's suffering. This is a beautiful sentiment, but it is only the faintest echo of the reality. True compassion, in the sense we are exploring here, is not an emotion you feel. It is a state of being you inhabit. It is a resonant frequency that you broadcast from the very core of your consciousness. It is a fundamental tone of the universe, like the background radiation left over from the birth of the cosmos, a silent hum of unconditional love and acceptance that underlies all of creation. Let us distinguish this from empathy. Empathy, as it is often experienced, is feeling with someone. It is to resonate so closely with their pain that you begin to feel it as your own. While it can be a bridge to connection, it can also lead to exhaustion and burnout. If you jump into a raging river to save someone, you risk drowning with them. Compassion is different. Compassion is the act of standing firmly on the riverbank of your own peaceful presence and throwing them a rope. You acknowledge their struggle. You hold space for their pain with immense love, but you do not become entangled in it. Your stable, loving presence is the life raft. Compassion, therefore, is not about taking on another's suffering. It is about connecting with them from a place of profound strength, a place that can hold all suffering without being diminished by it. To understand this concept of frequency, we must embrace a new model of reality, one that ancient wisdom traditions have always known and that quantum physics is now beginning to affirm. Your consciousness is not a thing confined within your skull. It is a field of energy. Your entire being is a broadcasting tower, and every thought, belief, and emotion you have possesses a distinct vibrational signature. You are constantly sending out a signal that shapes the reality you experience. Consider the frequencies of the egoic, contracted mind. Fear is a low, jagged, chaotic frequency. It is a signal of contraction. When you broadcast fear, you repel connection and you magnetize circumstances that seem to justify your fear. Judgment and anger are harsh, sharp, dissonant frequencies. They are like broadcasting static. They create friction, conflict, and misunderstanding, making clear communication impossible. Shame and grief, while necessary emotions to process, are dense, heavy, slow vibrations. To be stuck in them is to feel as if you are submerged in an energetic swamp, isolated and drained of life force. These lower frequencies are the natural result of living from the ego's fortress, from the belief in your own separation and woundedness. Now consider the frequencies of the awakened heart. Love and appreciation are expansive, harmonious, coherent frequencies. They are signals of openness. They naturally attract warmth, support, and positive resonance. Joy is a light, bubbling, radiant frequency that effortlessly uplifts you and those around you. Peace is a calm, stable, and deeply coherent frequency like a pure, clear tone that brings order to any chaos it touches. Where does compassion fit in this spectrum? Compassion is the master frequency. It is unique because it is not simply high. It is rather the all-encompassing frequency that has the capacity to hold all other frequencies within it. Think of it as a vast, silent, and powerful chord of pure love. This chord is so profound that when the dissonant notes of another's fear, anger, or pain enter its field, they are not destroyed or rejected. Instead, they are held, heard, and harmonized. The greater field of compassion does not get pulled down into the lower frequency. It gently entrains the lower frequency, inviting it to return to a state of harmony. This is why a truly compassionate presence is so healing. It does not fight with suffering. It loves suffering back into wholeness. Your life is a direct reflection of the frequency you are broadcasting. This is the deepest meaning of the universe conspires to bring connection to you. The universe is not a person with intentions. It is a field of energy that responds perfectly to your own through the law of resonance. You are a radio. If your inner transmitter is tuned to the station of judgment, fear, and separation, you simply cannot receive the broadcast of loving, authentic connection that is playing on another frequency. You will only experience the static of your own transmission reflected back at you. To change your experience of the world, you must change the signal you are sending out. You must consciously, deliberately, learn to tune your own being to the frequency of compassion. How is this done? This is the beautiful culmination of all the work we have done so far. This frequency is not something you must invent. It is your natural state. It is the signal of your true self, the consciousness that exists beneath the noisy narrator. The ego's chatter is the interference that scrambles this pure, innate signal. Therefore, every step we have taken on this journey has been an act of tuning the dial. When you quiet the ceaseless narrator, you reduce the static. When you honor your sacred wound, you transmute the dense personal energy of your pain into the clear, universal energy of our shared story. When you practice the courage of vulnerability, you open your heart, which is the very antenna that broadcasts and receives this frequency. When you dissolve judgment and practice seeing the innocent intention, you are performing the fine-tuning. You are consciously locking onto the frequency of compassion and choosing to broadcast it. We can also amplify this signal with active practice. One of the most ancient and powerful methods for this is the practice of loving kindness, or metta. It is the intentional act of warming up your energetic transmitter. Sit quietly for a few moments and bring your awareness to your heart center. First, offer the frequency to yourself. Repeat silently, "May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I live with ease." Feel the warmth of that intention in your own body. Then, radiate it outwards. Picture someone you love dearly and offer them the same. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you live with ease. Then, expand the circle to a neutral person, someone you have no strong feelings about. Then, most radically, expand it to include a person with whom you have difficulty. This last step is the ultimate act of alchemy, consciously beaming the highest frequency towards the lowest point of friction in your life. This practice strengthens your capacity to hold the compassionate frequency, making it your default state rather than a momentary feeling. When you begin to consistently emanate this frequency, your entire reality starts to recalibrate. On an interpersonal level, you will notice a change in how people respond to you. Your non-judgmental, compassionate field gives the egos of others nothing to push against. There is no friction. In your presence, their own armor may feel heavy and unnecessary. Your resonant field acts like a tuning fork, creating a space where their own dormant, compassionate frequency has a chance to vibrate in response. You are not changing them. You are creating the sacred space for them to change themselves. On a universal level, you begin to experience a new sense of flow. Synchronicities increase. The right people, the right conversations, and the right opportunities for deep connection seem to arrive without effort. This is not magic, it is spiritual physics. You have tuned your receiver to the universe's broadcast of harmony, and you are finally able to perceive the connections that were there all along. You are no longer struggling against the current of life, but have merged with it. Compassion, then, is the ultimate creative force. It is not a passive acceptance of suffering, but an active participation in the world from the most powerful state of being available to us. It is the shift from being a reactor to circumstance to being a conscious creator of your energetic reality. It is the frequency that heals you, and in healing you, begins to heal the world around you. When you become a powerful and stable transmitter of this compassionate frequency, you fundamentally alter the inner economy of your relationships. The ego's transactional model of keeping score, of giving only to get, of carefully measuring what you receive, simply dissolves. It is a low-frequency game that you are no longer playing. You enter into a new, more graceful dynamic, a continuous and effortless exchange of energy, guided by the wisdom of an open heart. You begin to understand the sacred rhythm of all existence, the giving and the receiving, the breathing out and the breathing in. You are now ready to learn the breath of generosity. We have tuned our being to the master frequency of compassion. This is not a passive state. It is an active, resonant broadcast that changes the very fabric of our reality. As we emanate this frequency, we step out of the ego's cramped and fearful economy, a world of scarcity, transactions, and keeping score. We enter into a new and spacious ecology, one governed by flow, by trust, and by a dynamic rhythm of exchange. This is the rhythm of the universe itself, and to align with it is to learn a new way of being in relationship with others. It is to learn the breath of generosity. In the ego's lexicon, generosity is a transaction. It is an act of giving that comes with a hidden ledger. The ego gives its time, its energy, or its resources with an implicit expectation of a return on its investment. Gratitude, recognition, a favor owed, an enhanced status as a good person. If this expected return does not materialize, the ego feels cheated and resentful. Giving from this place is an act of depletion, a loss of personal assets, which is why the ego is often so stingy with its kindness. It operates from a deep-seated belief in scarcity, the belief that there is not enough love, time, or energy to go around, and therefore one must hoard what one has. The generosity we are speaking of now has nothing to do with this transactional model. This is generosity as respiration. It is the natural, effortless movement of an open and compassionate heart. Think of the simple, unconscious act of breathing. When your lungs are full of air, they do not perform a complex calculation before releasing it. They do not say, "I will only exhale if I am guaranteed an equal or greater amount of air on the next inhale." The exhale is not a duty or a sacrifice. It is a natural, necessary, and relieving release. It is the overflow of fullness. To give from the frequency of compassion is exactly like this. When your being is filled with the energy of peace, presence, and love, it naturally overflows. Giving your attention, your understanding, or your support is not a depletion of your resources. It is the joyful exhale of your own inner abundance. The act of giving is its own reward because it is an expression of your true, expansive nature. You are not giving to get something back. You are giving because you are full, and giving is the natural movement of a full heart. This is generosity not as a moral imperative, but as a spiritual impulse, as natural and as necessary as breathing out. But breath is a two-part process. There is the exhale and there is the inhale. And here we encounter one of the ego's most subtle and powerful resistances, Our culture praises giving, but it is deeply suspicious of receiving. To receive is often framed as a sign of weakness, of dependency, of having failed to be perfectly self-sufficient. The ego, with its desperate need to be seen as strong and in control, would often rather suffer in silence than perform the vulnerable act of accepting help. This refusal to receive is an act of profound egoic pride, and it is just as damaging to connection as the refusal to give. When you refuse a genuine offer of help, a sincere compliment, or an expression of care, you are breaking the sacred circuit of generosity. You are exhaling, but you are refusing to inhale. This not only depletes you, but it also denies the other person the joy of their own exhale. You deny them the gift of feeling needed, of feeling capable, of expressing their own fullness. To graciously receive is, therefore, an act of generosity in itself. It is giving another the gift of their own giving. It completes the circle. It honors their abundance. It is the necessary inhale that allows the entire system to continue breathing. Let us imagine our relationships as a garden. The transactional ego treats the garden like a contract. I will provide exactly 10 gallons of water, and you, the garden, will provide me with exactly 5 perfect roses. Any deviation is a breach of contract. This is a sterile, lifeless approach. The heart of compassion, however, knows that a garden is a living system, an ecology of flow. Giving is the sunshine. The sun does not shine on the garden with conditions. It does not demand a certain number of leaves or a specific shade of green in return for its warmth. It shines because that is its nature. It pours out its energy freely, trusting that this energy will be used for growth and life. This is the nature of the compassionate exhaleto, offer our warmth, our presence, our understanding, without condition. Receiving is the rain. The garden cannot survive on sun alone. It will wither and turn to dust. It must be open, soft, and permeable to receive the rain. It must allow itself to be nourished, to be replenished. A refusal to be vulnerable, a refusal to receive, is like paving over the garden with concrete. The rain will simply run off, and the ground beneath will remain parched and barren. The health, beauty, and vitality of the garden depend entirely on the dynamic, ever-changing dance of both sun and rain. True connection requires us to be masterful at both shining our sun and drinking in the rain. What blocks this natural respiration? It is the ego's fear-based blockages. The primary blockage is the illusion of scarcity. The compassionate heart knows that the essential gifts, presence, love, kindness, understanding, are not finite resources. They are infinite. They are the very substance of our being. You can never run out of them. In fact, the more you give, the more you realize you have. The act of giving expands your capacity to hold them. The other blockages are pride and its shadow, unworthiness. Pride is the voice that says, "I don't need anyone, I can do it myself," and it prevents you from inhaling. Unworthiness is the voice that says, "I don't deserve this kindness. I am not good enough to receive this gift," and it also prevents you from inhaling. Both are lies of the ego, designed to keep you in the isolated prison of the self. The practice is to notice these voices, thank them for their misguided attempt to protect you, and then consciously choose to breathe anyway. Choose to receive the compliment with a simple "thank you." Choose to accept the offer of help. Choose to inhale the love that is being offered, even if it feels uncomfortable. The most powerful forms of generosity are not material. They are the generosities of the spirit. There is the generosity of interpretation, the choice to see the innocent intention in others, to give them the benefit of the doubt, to assume the best of them until proven otherwise. There is the generosity of attention, the gift of your undivided silent presence, the empty bowl of your listening. And there is the generosity of forgiveness, the choice to release the heavy burden of resentment, to let go of the debt you believe you are owed, not for their sake, but for your own, so that you can breathe freely again. These are the infinite resources of the open heart. When you master this breath of generosity, you step out of the cramped, transactional world and into the spacious, flowing reality of connection. You stop keeping score. You give freely from your fullness, and you receive graciously into your openness. You begin to trust the rhythm. You realize that you are a part of a vast, interconnected system of energetic exchange, a cosmic respiration that sustains all of life. And as you become fluent in this rhythm, this beautiful life-affirming flow of giving and receiving, you may start to sense that this is not a dynamic limited to your human relationships. You start to feel this same pulse beating in the world around you. You see it in the tree that gives its oxygen for you to breathe, and in turn receives the carbon dioxide of your exhale. You see it in the flower that gives its beauty to your eyes, and in turn receives the pollinating visit of the bee. You feel it in the river that gives its water endlessly to the sea, and in turn is replenished by the rain from the sky. The strict line between you and the world, between human and nature, begins to feel blurry, artificial. You are awakening to a deeper, more profound sense of belonging. You are now ready to expand your sense of connection beyond your own species and to recognize your kinship with all life. We have learned to breathe with the rhythm of generosity, feeling the sacred, life-affirming pulse of giving and receiving that animates our human relationships. In mastering this breath, we have prepared ourselves for the ultimate expansion of empathy, the final and most profound dissolution of the illusion of separation. For the breath of generosity is not a human invention. It is the very respiration of the cosmos. We have, until now, focused our attention on the connections between human hearts. Now, we must widen the lens of our awareness until it is vast enough to contain everything. We must dismantle the greatest and most tragic of all separations, the belief that humanity is separate from and superior to the natural world. We are now ready to awaken from this delusion and remember our kinship with all life. This illusion of separation from nature is the foundational myth of the modern ego. It is the story that whispers that the earth is a resource, a commodity, a thing to be used, managed, and controlled. Nature is seen as a beautiful backdrop for the drama of human life, or as a savage force to be conquered and tamed. We say we are going out into nature, a phrase that subtly reinforces the belief that we are here and nature is over there. This belief is the source of our deepest existential loneliness and the driving force behind our planetary crisis. For we can only exploit and destroy that which we perceive as fundamentally separate from and lesser than ourselves. The journey to ultimate connection requires us to heal this primary wound. The truth is simple and profound. You are not in nature. You are nature. You are not a visitor on this planet. You are its child, its expression, its consciousness made manifest in human form. Let us begin by feeling this truth in the very substance of your body. Your body is not a machine you inhabit. It is a walking, breathing ecosystem, a piece of the earth that has risen up to experience itself. The water that constitutes over half your weight is the same water that falls as rain and flows in the rivers. It is the ancient ocean, held for a moment in the vessel of your cells. The calcium that gives your bones their strength was forged in the planet's rocky crust. The iron in your blood, which carries the breath of life to every part of your being, was cooked in the heart of a dying star billions of years ago. You are literally made of stardust and soil. You are not living on the earth. You are the earth, temporarily configured as a human. Every breath you take is a direct exchange with the plant world. You inhale the oxygen they have generously exhaled. They, in turn, take in the carbon dioxide of your own exhale. This is the breath of generosity on a planetary scale. You are a lung of the earth. Your personal rhythms are echoes of cosmic rhythms. The beat of your heart is the beat of a universal drum. To feel your body is to feel your connection to the entire planet. Now, let us expand our understanding of intelligence. The ego confines intelligence to the wrinkled folds of the human brain. It sees the rest of life as unthinking, unfeeling, and inanimate. This is a profound arrogance. There are myriad forms of consciousness, myriad expressions of intelligence. A forest possesses a deep, slow, and interconnected intelligence that flows through the mycorrhizal network in its roots, a vast subterranean brain communicating and sharing resources between trees. A flock of starlings exhibits a breathtaking swarm intelligence, moving as a single fluid organism in the evening sky. A mountain holds a geological intelligence, a consciousness of deep time, patience, and immense silent presence that dwarfs our fleeting human lifespan. To recognize these other forms of intelligence is to humble the ego and to begin to see the world not as a collection of objects, but as a community of subjects, a communion of beings, each with its own way of knowing, its own way of being. But to know this intellectually is not enough. The goal is to feel this kinship in your bones, in your heart. This requires a new kind of practice, an ecological empathy. It begins with the understanding that your consciousness is not a prisoner inside your skull. It is a field of awareness that you can learn to consciously expand. I invite you now to undertake this practice, either in your memory, your imagination, or, best of all, by stepping outside. Find a single expression of nature. It could be a towering ancient tree, a simple houseplant on your windowsill, a smooth stone you hold in your palm, or a patch of moss growing in a crack in the pavement. First, become still. Let the chatter of the ceaseless narrator subside. Feel the weight of your body, the rhythm of your breath. Let go of your agenda, your rush, your to-do list. Simply be present. Next, engage your senses, but in a new way. Do not just look at the tree. Receive its form, its colors, its textures with your eyes. Touch the bark. Don't just feel it. Let the sensation of its roughness, its coolness, travel up your arm. Smell the air around it. Listen, truly listen, to the sound of the wind moving through its leaves. For these few moments, your entire purpose is to be a silent, open witness to the being of this tree. Now comes the crucial step. In your mind, let go of the word tree. Let go of the botanical labels, the scientific classifications, all the mental boxes you have for it. These concepts are a veil that separates you from its reality. Let them drop. In the silence that remains, feel the simple, profound, non-verbal presence of this other life form. It is here. It is real. It is alive. Then, perform an act of imaginative empathy. Imagine the boundary of your own skin beginning to soften, to become permeable. Imagine your own field of awareness, which normally ends at your fingertips, expanding outwards. Let it stretch across the space between you and the tree. Let it merge with the tree's own field of being. What does it feel like to be this tree? Feel the strength of your roots plunging deep into the dark, cool earth, drawing up water and nourishment. Feel the solidity of your trunk, a pillar of patience, standing firm through seasons of sun and storm. Feel your branches reaching, stretching, aspiring towards the light of the sun. Feel the life force, the sap, rising within you. Feel the slow, silent passage of time, a world measured in seasons and decades, not in minutes and hours. You are not hallucinating. You are using your consciousness as an instrument of connection, feeling into a different way of being, a different rhythm of life. You can extend this practice to all things. Sit by a river and feel its relentless, flowing nature as your own, its patient power to wear away stone. Stand before a mountain and feel its immense stillness, its unshakable presence, as a quality within your own heart. Lie on your back and gaze at the night sky and feel the boundless star-dusted spaciousness of the cosmos as the true nature of your own mind. The tree reflects your own capacity for growth and patience. The river reflects your own life force. The mountain reflects your own deep inner peace. The sky reflects your own infinite consciousness. They are all mirrors, showing you the magnificent, non-human facets of your own total self. When you forget this kinship, the consequences are devastating. The ecological destruction of our planet is a direct external manifestation of the ego's inner illusion of separation. It is a spiritual disease made visible. We poison the rivers because we do not feel that we are poisoning our own veins. We choke the air because we do not feel that we are suffocating our own lungs. We decimate species because we do not feel that we are silencing a part of our own soul's song. Conversely, when you remember this kinship, when you feel it as a living reality, your behavior changes effortlessly. This is a crucial point. Environmental action born from guilt, fear, or angry protest is still an act of separation, an us versus them mentality. It is unsustainable because it burns on the fuel of the ego. But action born from a state of love and kinship is entirely different. You begin to care for the planet not as a moral duty, but as a simple, joyful act of self-care. You are now tending to your larger body. You protect the forest as you would protect your own lungs. You clean the water as you would purify your own blood. Your actions become a prayer, a ceremony, an expression of your rediscovered love for the totality of your own being. This is the ultimate expansion of empathy. It is the breathtaking realization that your self is not this small skin-encapsulated ego. Your true self is the entire, intricate, glorious web of life. There is no separation. There is only one consciousness, one life force, dreaming itself into being as a galaxy, a mountain, a river, a tree, a wolf, and as you, sitting here, breathing, listening, remembering. When the walls of the personal self dissolve into this boundless kinship with all life, the ache of loneliness that has shadowed you for a lifetime finally vanishes. For how can you be lonely when you are intimately connected to everything that is? The desperate search for a place to belong, a tribe, a home, is over. You were never in exile. You were always, and are always, at the very center of it all. This deep, profound, and peaceful recognition is the feeling of coming home. We have expanded our consciousness to the very edges of the cosmos, feeling our kinship with the stars, the stones, and every living thing. We have touched the magnificent, impersonal truth of our universal nature. And now, we must bring this vast realization back into the intimate chamber of the human heart. For the result of this great expansion is not a feeling of abstract, distant grandeur. It is the most personal, most comforting, and most profound feeling a soul can experience. It is the feeling of coming home. For your entire life, you have been a seeker. You may not have used that word, but the energy of the search has been the quiet, constant hum beneath all your endeavors. It is the ache of existential homelessness. It is the feeling of being a stranger in the world, a traveler without a map, looking for a place to finally set down your burdens and be at rest. And so you have searched for home in 1,000 places. You have looked for it in the approving gaze of a parent. You have sought it in the passionate embrace of a lover, believing their heart could be your permanent address. You have tried to build it with the bricks of career achievement and the mortar of financial success, hoping a beautiful house could quell the restlessness within. You have sought it in the belonging of a group, a community, a nation, hoping their identity could become your own. Each of these external homes offered a temporary shelter. For a moment, a day, or even years, the ache may have subsided, but it always returned. Because these homes were all conditional, the lover's heart could change, the career could falter, the group could cast you out. And so, even within these temporary shelters, you were never truly at peace. You lived with the subtle, gnawing fear of the exile you felt you always were, the fear of being found out and turned back out into the cold. Here lies the great misunderstanding that has fueled your lifelong search. The ache of loneliness you have carried for so long is not the pain of being separate from others. It is the pain of being in exile from your true self. The home you have been desperately seeking in the outer world is a home that can only be found within. Your feeling of homelessness was a direct symptom of your identification with the small, frightened ego self. The ego, by its very nature, is a wanderer. It is the part of you that believes it is a separate island, a solitary fortress, and so it is perpetually insecure, perpetually seeking validation and safety from outside itself. It is the part of you that believes the story of your sacred wound makes you an outcast. Your entire search for connection with others was a beautiful, tragic projection of your deep inner disconnection from the vast, peaceful, and eternal nature of your own being. The journey we have taken together through the fortress of the ego, past the ceaseless narrator, into the mirror of the other, and through the gateway of the sacred wound has not been a journey to a new destination. It has been a journey of homecoming. It has been a process of dismantling the illusion of your own exile. And what does this homecoming feel like? It is not a lightning strike or a thunderous revelation. More often, it is a quiet dawning. It is the slow, gentle, and final cessation of the search. It is, first and foremost, a feeling of profound stillness. The frantic, nervous energy of the seeker finally comes to rest. The part of you that was always striving, always needing to get somewhere else, to become someone better, simply relaxes. There is nowhere else to go. There is nothing else to become. You are already here. You are already whole. A peace that is not conditional on circumstances, a peace that the world cannot give and cannot take away, settles into your bones. From this stillness arises a feeling of deep sufficiency. The desperate need for external validation, the hunger for praise, the craving for another's approval begins to fade. It is not that these things are no longer pleasant, it is that they are no longer necessary for your sense of worth. You stop trying to fill your cup from the outside because you realize your cup was never empty. You are being filled from a boundless inner wellspring of peace. Your own silent, aware presence is enough. You are at home in your own skin. This sufficiency then blossoms into a feeling of unconditional belonging. You no longer need to audition for your place in the world. You belong not because a specific person loves you or a specific group accepts you, but because you are an inextricable part of the fabric of existence itself. Your kinship is with all life. You belong to the earth beneath your feet and the sky above your head. This belonging can never be threatened, never be questioned, and never be revoked. It is your birthright. And in this state, the very concept of loneliness dissolves into absurdity. Loneliness is the feeling of being a separate fragment. When you realize that you are not a fragment, but are intimately interwoven with the entire tapestry, the feeling cannot survive. You may be physically alone, but you are never lonely. To be alone becomes a joy, a time of quiet communion with the fullness of your own being and the presence of all life. Here is the most beautiful paradox of all. The moment you stop needing others to be your home, you become free, for the first time, to truly love them. The moment you stop seeking connection, connection finds you effortlessly. When you were in exile, your relationships were burdened with the impossible task of curing your homelessness. You were connecting from a place of lack, of neediness, of subtle desperation. You were clinging, not connecting. But now, you approach others from a place of fullness. You connect not to get something, but to share the peace and love that are already overflowing within you. The fear of rejection and abandonment, the twin ghosts that haunt the homeless ego, lose their power over you. If another person chooses to leave your life, it may bring sadness, but it cannot make you homeless again. Your home is within you. It is portable, and it is permanent. This frees you to love with a breathtaking openness and authenticity, without the subtle manipulation and fear that always accompanies dependency. Authentic, deep, soulful connection with others, the very thing you sought so desperately your entire life, reveals itself as the joyful, natural byproduct of coming home to yourself. So, let the old metaphor die. You are not a weary traveler searching for shelter. You are not a beggar knocking on the doors of other people's hearts. The great awakening, the homecoming, is the moment you stop knocking and simply turn around. And in turning, you realize you have been standing on the porch of your own magnificent, light-filled mansion all along. You were never cast out. You were never in exile. You were the home itself, pretending to be a refugee. The practice now is simply to inhabit this home, to walk through its quiet rooms, to build a warm fire in its hearth, to rest in its unshakable foundations, and from this place of deep peace and security, you can throw open the doors and windows. You can invite others in to share the warmth, not because you need their company to feel less alone, but because it is the nature of a warm and loving home to share its light. To live from this place of inner homecoming is to live in a state of grace. It is the foundation for all healthy, thriving relationships. But this profound sense of unity and openness does not mean you become a doormat. A true home, a true sanctuary, has a structure. It has walls that define its sacred space, and it has a door that can be opened and closed with conscious intention. To protect the peace of your own inner home, and to honor the sovereignty of others, we must now learn that the clearest expressions of love are often found not in boundless merging, but in the delineation of loving boundaries. We have come home. We have journeyed from the cramped exile of the ego to the vast, open homeland of our true self, a self that is intimately connected to all of life. In this homecoming, there is a feeling of boundless unity, of a love that knows no separation. And here, in this beautiful, open-hearted space, we encounter a seeming paradox. If we are all one, why do we need to draw lines between us? If the goal is to dissolve separation, why would we now speak of creating boundaries? This is a crucial and delicate point on our journey. The ego, in its fear, builds walls. A wall is a structure of defense, born of suspicion. It is a harsh, impenetrable barrier that says, "Go away. You are a threat. I must protect myself from you." It is the architecture of isolation. The awakened heart, however, does not build walls. It delineates boundaries. A boundary is a structure of respect, born of love. It is a clear, gentle, and honest line that says, "I love you, and I love myself. This is where I end, and you begin. This is what I need to feel safe and to honor my own being, so that I can connect with you from a place of fullness, not from a place of depletion." Walls are designed to keep people out. Boundaries are designed to let people in, but in a way that is sustainable, respectful, and loving for everyone involved. Boundaries are not the opposite of connection. They are the essential prerequisite for it. Let us be clear about what a boundary is and what it is not. A boundary is not an attempt to control another person's behavior. It is not an ultimatum or a threat. Any statement that begins with "you must" or "you have to stop" is not a boundary. It is an act of attempted control, and it is doomed to create conflict. A true boundary is a statement about your own reality, your own capacity, and the actions you will take to honor them. The focus is always on yourself, on what you can control. For example, the ego's wall says, "You have to stop yelling at me." The soul's boundary says, "I feel unsafe and unable to listen when there is yelling. If you choose to continue yelling, I will lovingly remove myself from the room until we can speak calmly." Do you see the difference? The first is a demand. The second is a clear, loving statement of truth and a commitment to self-care. To set a boundary is a profound act of self-love. It is you, as the sovereign of your inner world, declaring that your peace, your energy, and your well-being are sacred and that you are worthy of protection. For many of us, this is a radical act. We have been taught to abandon ourselves, to put the needs and feelings of others before our own, to believe that self-care is selfish. But you cannot pour from an empty cup. A boundary is the act of ensuring your own cup remains full, so that what you give to others is not a resentful trickle, but a joyful overflow. It is also an act of profound respect for the other person. An unspoken boundary, an unexpressed need, festers into resentment, which is a poison that silently corrodes connection. A clearly and lovingly stated boundary is a gift of information. It says, "I trust you enough to handle my truth. This is what works for me. This is how you can connect with me successfully." It honors their capacity to respect your needs and adjust their approach. Let us return to the metaphor of the sacred home we discovered in the last chapter. Your inner world, your consciousness, is a beautiful garden surrounding this home. Without any boundaries, this garden is like an open field. Anyone can wander through. People can leave their trash, their unprocessed anger, their negativity on your lawn. Animals can wander in and trample the delicate flowers of your peace. The garden becomes exhausted, depleted, unable to flourish. This is the state of a person without boundaries, constantly feeling drained and resentful. The fearful ego, on the other hand, builds a 20-foot concrete wall around the garden, topped with barbed wire. Nothing gets in. No one can hurt the garden. But now the garden is a prison. It receives no sunlight of connection, no rain of shared experience. It withers and dies in isolation. A healthy, loving boundary is like a beautiful, well-tended fence with a clear gate. The purpose of this fence is not to reject the world, but to create a consecrated space within which beautiful things can be cultivated. The fence says, "This is a sacred space. This is where I cultivate my joy, my creativity, and my peace." It creates the safety necessary for the most delicate flowers of your soul to blossom. And the gate is the most important part. You are the sole keeper of this gate. You have the sovereign power to decide when to open it and when to close it. You can swing it wide to welcome in those who respect the sanctity of your garden. You can also lovingly close it when you need solitude, or if someone approaches with the intention, conscious or unconscious, of causing harm. The boundary does not remove you from the world. It gives you a safe space from which to engage with the world consciously and lovingly. So how do we practice this? First, it requires inner clarity. You must spend time in your own garden, understanding its needs. You must ask yourself, what do I need to feel safe and respected in this relationship? What is my energetic and emotional capacity right now? What am I willing to do, and what am I not willing to do? You cannot communicate a clear boundary if you are not clear with yourself first. Second, the communication must be clear, simple, and come from a place of love. Use I statements. A simple formula is, when X happens, I feel Y. What I need is Z. If you continue to do X, I will do a specific action to take care of myself. For example, when you make jokes about my work, I feel disrespected. I need our conversations to feel supportive. If the jokes continue, I will remind you of this boundary. And if they still continue, I will end the conversation for the day. Notice, you are not trying to control them. You are giving them information and stating what you will do. Third, and this is the most challenging part, you must be willing to hold the boundary. People, especially those who have benefited from your lack of boundaries, will test your fence. They may push on it with anger, try to pick the lock with guilt, or simply pretend it isn't there. Your task is to hold the line with calm, loving firmness. This is not an act of punishment. It is an act of integrity, of honoring the commitment you made to yourself. You simply and calmly follow through on the action you said you would take. Setting boundaries for the first time can be terrifying. It can bring up deep fears of conflict, of being seen as selfish, or of being abandoned. Here is a truth to hold on to. Any relationship that cannot survive a clearly articulated, loving boundary was not a relationship based on mutual respect to begin with. It was a relationship based on your silence and your compliance. It was a relationship that required you to abandon your own garden so that another could be comfortable. To let go of such a connection is not a loss. It is a profound and necessary liberation. The freedom that comes from this practice is immense. The resentment that used to simmer beneath the surface dissolves. Your energy increases because you are no longer leaking it in unhealthy dynamics. Your relationships become more honest, more intimate, and more real because they are now built on the solid foundation of truth and mutual respect. Boundaries are the ultimate practical application of self-love. They are the scaffolding that allows us to build healthy, sustainable connections. With the loving fence of our boundaries firmly in place, tended with care, we have created a sustainable inner sanctuary. Our garden is safe. We are no longer afraid that another person's inner storm will flood our flower beds or that their desperation will trample our peace. This changes everything. It changes how we are able to show up for the world. We can now approach the suffering of others, not from a place of fear and depletion, but from a place of grounded strength and compassionate fullness. We are finally equipped to practice empathy without exhaustion. We have come so far. We have built a home within ourselves and learned to protect its sacred space with the loving fences of our boundaries. From this place of grounded safety, we are no longer afraid to open the gates of our hearts. We are ready to engage with the world's joy and its suffering. But for those of us with sensitive hearts, this readiness comes with a deep and valid fear, the fear of exhaustion. You know this feeling well. You are the empath, the sensitive soul, the one who feels everything. You walk into a room and your mood changes, colored by the ambient emotional energy. You listen to a friend's story and feel their anxiety knotting in your own stomach. You offer your support, your love, your presence, and at the end of the day, you collapse, feeling drained, heavy, and depleted, as if you have been carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. Your beautiful, compassionate heart has become a source of profound fatigue. Your gift of empathy feels like a curse. This experience, the empath's dilemma, is born from a fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of true compassion. We have been taught a flawed model, that to show we care, we must take on another person's pain. We believe we must absorb their suffering into our own beings, carry their emotional burdens as our own. We have learned to be a sponge, and we wonder why we are so often heavy and waterlogged. There is another way, a more powerful, sustainable, and truly healing way. You must learn to stop being a container for pain and become instead a channel for love. The secret to a lifetime of compassionate engagement is to learn to let the energy of healing flow through you, not from you. Let us first examine the two flawed models of empathy that lead directly to burnout. The first, and most common for sensitive people, is the model of the sponge. The sponge is a being with porous or non-existent energetic boundaries. They are unconsciously merged with their environment. Their desire to connect is so strong that they erase the line between their own energy field and that of another. When a friend expresses sadness, the sponge doesn't just witness the sadness, they absorb it. The friend's grief becomes their grief. Their anxiety becomes their anxiety. They take the other person's pain into their own emotional and physical body, believing this act of absorption is what it means to be a good friend. After the interaction, the friend may feel a little lighter, having offloaded some of their burden, but the sponge is left heavy, drained, and confused, carrying feelings that are not even their own. They have taken on a karmic weight that was never theirs to carry. This is not healing. It is a dysfunctional transfer of energy. The second flawed model is the ego's reaction to the pain of being a sponge. This is the model of the fixer. The fixer feels the discomfort of another's pain, and, because it is so uncomfortable, they feel a frantic urge to make it go away as quickly as possible. The fixer doesn't truly listen, they diagnose. They interrupt with unsolicited advice. They offer cheerful platitudes to try and paper over the darkness. They take on the other person's problem as their own personal project, needing to manage it towards a successful outcome, to validate their own sense of worth and efficacy. This is not true compassion. It is the ego's desperate attempt to alleviate its own discomfort by controlling the external world. The person in pain does not feel witnessed or honored. They feel like a problem to be solved. And the fixer becomes utterly exhausted by the impossible and arrogant task of trying to run everyone else's life, carrying the immense burden of responsibility for outcomes they cannot control. Both the sponge and the fixer are on the road to burnout. There is a third way. It is the way of the channel. To understand this model, let us use a new and powerful metaphor. Imagine that your being, your consciousness, is a magnificent stained glass window. You have a unique pattern, a unique combination of colors and shapes that is yours alone. Now, imagine that the unconditional love of the universe, call it Source, God, Life Force, the light of beingness, the sun. It is an infinite, inexhaustible source of light and warmth. And imagine that the pain and suffering of the person you are with is a gray, cloudy day in the room where they sit. The sponge, seeing the grey room, tries to absorb the greyness into the window itself. The beautiful glass becomes murky, dark, and loses its translucence. It takes on the quality of the room and forgets its own nature as a conduit for light. The fixer, seeing the grey room, frantically tries to polish its own glass, hoping that by making the windows shinier, it will somehow change the quality of the room. It tries to paint a picture of a sunny day on the glass, a futile attempt to deny the reality of the clouds. The channel understands its true function. The window's job is not to absorb the darkness or to pretend it isn't there. Its job is simply to remain as clear and clean as possible and to position itself to face the sun. The channel knows that the light is not generated from within the glass. The light comes from the sun. When the infinite, brilliant light of the sun shines through the unique pattern of the stained glass window, it is transformed. It enters the grey room not as generic, formless white light, but as a breathtaking cascade of beautiful, healing colors and patterns. The light is not from you, it is through you. You are the sacred vessel that gives the universal healing energy a specific, personal, and beautiful form. Your presence becomes the instrument through which the universe plays its song of compassion. How do we practice this? How do we become a channel instead of a sponge or a fixer? It is an active, conscious, energetic practice. First, you must ground yourself. Before and during an interaction, feel your connection to the earth beneath you. Feel your feet on the floor. Imagine roots growing from your soles deep into the planet's core. This establishes your own sovereign, energetic circuit. You are rooted in your own being, in your own home. Second, you connect to Source. Just as you are rooted to the earth below, you open yourself to the source of infinite energy above. Visualize a brilliant column of golden white light flowing from the heavens, entering the crown of your head, and filling your entire being, concentrating in your heart. You are consciously filling your system with inexhaustible universal energy, not your own limited personal battery. Third, you set a clear intention. Silently, in your own mind, state, I am a clear and loving channel for compassion. I allow healing energy to flow through me, not from me. My purpose is to witness and to hold space, not to absorb or to fix. I hold this person in the light, but I do not carry their burden. As you listen, you maintain this awareness. You are the stained glass window. You are the sacred container. You listen with the empty bowl of your presence, but the bowl itself is being held and supported by this immense flow of energy from above and below. You can feel their pain. You can witness it with a deeply open heart, but you do not take it into you. You allow it to be present in the space between you, a space that is now filled with the healing light of compassion that is flowing through you. You are holding the life raft, not jumping into the river. After the interaction, it is vital to consciously release any residual energy. You can do this by physically shaking your body, imagining you are shaking off any energetic dust. You can wash your hands with the specific intention of cleansing your energy field. You can place your hands on the earth and visualize any energy that is not yours, flowing back into the planet to be composted and transformed. Living as a channel brings a profound sense of liberation. It frees you from the crushing weight of being responsible for another person's healing. When you know the light is not coming from you, you are no longer attached to the outcome. You are not the healer. You are the space where healing can happen. Whether the person chooses to change, to heal, or to grow is between them and the universe. Your only responsibility is to be the clearest, most loving channel you can be. This is true humility. It removes all the pressure and allows you to offer your presence with a lightness and a joy that is impossible for the sponge or the fixer. This is the secret to a lifetime of deep, meaningful, and compassionate engagement with the world. It is the marriage of a completely open heart with a completely sovereign energy field. It is how your greatest sensitivity becomes your greatest strength. You are no longer afraid of the darkness because you know you are a conduit for a light that is infinitely more powerful. As you become more skilled at this practice, as you learn to consciously manage the flow of energy in your interactions, your sensitivity will sharpen even further. You will begin to perceive the subtle, silent currents of energy that flow between people before a single word is ever spoken. You will start to notice that a connection is made, a story is told, on a purely energetic level. We must now explore this silent, invisible language. We must learn to read the truth of energetic connection. We have learned to become a sustainable source of compassion, a clear channel for love, to flow into the world without depleting our own essence. As you stabilize in this new way of being, your sensitivity, which may have once felt like a burden, will begin to blossom into a profound and subtle gift. You will start to perceive the hidden architecture of human connection, the silent, invisible conversation that happens long before a single word is spoken. You are now ready to attune your awareness to this deeper reality. You are ready to explore the truth of energetic connection. Consider the unexamined experiences of your life. You meet a stranger and feel an instant, inexplicable sense of ease, a feeling of recognition, as if you are old friends. You meet another, and despite their polite words and friendly smile, you feel a subtle sense of contraction, a feeling of dissonance that you cannot quite name. You walk into a room and can immediately feel the argument that just took place, even though the air is silent. You sense a friend's distress over the phone, even when they insist that everything is fine. What is this perception? It is not mere imagination or fantasy. It is your consciousness making direct contact with the primary and most truthful form of communication that exists. It is the dialogue of energy. The greatest illusion of the material world is that we are solid, separate physical bodies. The deeper truth, understood by mystics for millennia, is that we are fields of pulsating energy, of consciousness, that have temporarily condensed into a physical form. This field of energy, sometimes called the aura, or the field of consciousness, surrounds and interpenetrates your physical body. It is not static. It is a luminous, shimmering extension of your being, constantly changing, flowing, and vibrating in response to your every thought, emotion, belief, and intention. Your energy field is a living broadcast of your inner state. When you are in a state of peace and contentment, your field might be smooth, coherent, and gently radiant. When you are in the throes of fear or anxiety, your field may become jagged, contracted, and chaotic. When you are filled with authentic joy, your field expands and brightens. This field is your real signature. It is your soul's truth, broadcast into the universe in every moment. And when you come into proximity with another person, your energy fields touch. They interact. They read and respond to each other in a silent, instantaneous conversation. This energetic handshake is the true first impression, and it tells a far more honest story than any words that follow. Let us use a metaphor to understand this interaction. Imagine that in any given moment, your state of being is broadcasting a specific musical note. This note is the sum total of your frequency. A person who is grounded, open, and compassionate may be broadcasting a deep, warm, resonant note, like a cello. A person who is anxious and scattered may be broadcasting a high-pitched, frantic, and slightly sharp note, like a violin played out of tune. When you meet another person, your two notes sound at the same time, creating a chord. If the two of you are in similar or complementary states of being, for instance, your peace meets their joy, the resulting chord is harmonious and consonant. This is the feeling of clicking with someone. It feels effortless, easy, and natural. There is no need to try. Your energies are naturally in tune, supporting and amplifying each other. This is why you can sit in comfortable silence with some people. The energetic chord between you is so beautiful, it needs no verbal accompaniment. If, however, you are in vastly different or conflicting states, your open-heartedness meets their deep-seated cynicism, or your calmness meets their suppressed anger, the resulting chord is dissonant. This is the feeling of friction, of awkwardness, of something being off. You can be having a perfectly pleasant conversation on the surface, but you feel the energetic dissonance underneath. It creates a subtle tension, a feeling that you are not on the same wavelength. Your energy fields are clashing. This principle of resonance also explains the phenomenon of energetic influence. In physics, this is called entrainment. The tendency for two oscillating bodies to lock into phase so that they vibrate in harmony. The more powerful or stable frequency will tend to pull the less stable one into its rhythm. This is why spending time with a deeply peaceful or joyful person can be so uplifting. Their strong, coherent frequency can gently entrain your own more chaotic one, inviting you into their state of peace without them saying a word. Conversely, this is why being a sponge is so dangerous. If your own energetic state is not strong and grounded, you can easily be pulled down into the lower, dissonant frequencies of a negative or suffering person. Becoming a channel, as we have learned, is the art of maintaining the stability of your own frequency while lovingly holding space for another's dissonance. The most powerful form of communication, then, is coherence. It is when your words, your emotions, your body language, and your energy field are all broadcasting the same signal. This is what we perceive as authenticity. When a person says, "I love you," but their energy field is broadcasting fear or ambivalence, we feel the incoherence. We may believe the words, but our bodies register the energetic truth, and we feel a sense of distrust. When a leader gives a speech full of powerful words, but their energy is weak and insecure, the message falls flat. The most charismatic and trustworthy people are those whose broadcast is clear and unified on all levels. Their being is a single, powerful, harmonious chord. How do you learn to read this silent language? How do you become energetically literate? The first and most crucial step is to learn to read your own energy. You cannot clearly perceive another's broadcast if you are unaware of the signal you yourself are sending. Throughout your day, practice pausing and checking in with your own being. Ask yourself, what is the quality of my energy right now? Am I feeling expansive or contracted, calm or chaotic, heavy or light? Do not judge it. Simply notice it. Become a connoisseur of your own inner states. Second, use your body as your primary receiver. When you are with another person, intentionally shift a portion of your awareness away from analyzing their words and into the felt sense within your own body. How does your body physically feel in their presence? Notice any subtle shifts. Do you feel your shoulders relax and your breath deepen? Or do you feel a subtle tightening in your chest, a knot in your stomach? Your body is an incredibly sensitive instrument, an energetic truth detector. It does not lie. Trust the wisdom it is giving you. That feeling of expansion is the feeling of energetic harmony. That feeling of contraction is the feeling of dissonance. Third, listen to the quality of the silence. The space between the words is not empty. It is thick with energetic information. Is the silence between you and another person comfortable, warm, and spacious? Or is it tense, awkward, and charged with unspoken things? The silence will tell you everything you need to know about the state of the energetic connection. To practice this is to awaken a dormant human faculty. It is to move beyond the limitations of verbal language and into the boundless, immediate, and truthful realm of energetic communication. As you become more fluent in this language, you realize with startling clarity that you are a broadcasting station, sending out a signal in every moment of your existence. Your state of being is your message to the world. And this realization leads to a profound and inescapable conclusion, one that carries with it an immense responsibility and an even greater freedom. If you are constantly broadcasting a signal, and if the universe responds to that signal through the law of resonance, then a fundamental cosmic principle must be at play. The universe does not judge the quality of your signal. It simply reflects it back to you with perfect, impersonal accuracy. The frequency you transmit is the reality you receive. We must now explore the infallible and elegant justice of this cosmic law. We must now understand the karma of connection. We have arrived at a pivotal understanding. We have seen that our inner stater thoughts, emotions, and deepest beliefs coalesces into an energy field, a frequency that we broadcast into the world in every moment. We are each a living transmitter, sending out a signal that interacts with the signals of others and with the great energetic field of the universe itself. We must now explore the fundamental law that governs this transmission. It is a law as impersonal, as predictable, and as elegant as gravity. It is a principle that has been known by many names across many traditions, but which is often shrouded in fear and misunderstanding. It is the law of karma. Let us begin by releasing the baggage that this word so often carries. The ego, in its fear-based view of the world, has distorted karma into a cosmic system of reward and punishment, a kind of divine scorekeeping where a celestial judge weighs our good and bad deeds and doles out fates accordingly. This is a childish interpretation, a projection of our own human models of crime and punishment onto a universe that operates with a far more profound and impersonal intelligence. Karma is not about punishment or reward. The universe does not judge you. Karma is simply the Sanskrit word for action, and the law of karma is the law of action and consequence. It is the spiritual equivalent of Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. It is the law of the echo. It states, with infallible precision, that the quality of energy you put out into the world is the quality of energy that will be reflected back to you. The universe does not give you what you want. It gives you what you are. It does not respond to your desires. It responds to your frequency. The karma of connection is the simple, unwavering truth that the quality of connection you experience in your life is a perfect mirror of the quality of connection you are broadcasting from your own being. To grasp this fully, imagine you are standing at the edge of a vast and silent canyon. This canyon is the quantum field, the womb of all potentiality, the universe itself. The canyon has no personality, no agenda, no preference. Its single, immutable property is that it reflects back whatever it receives with perfect fidelity. It is a perfect echo. Your every thought, your every emotion, your every intention, your entire state of being is a shout into this canyon. If you stand at the edge of this canyon and shout with a heart full of judgment, the world is a hostile place. People are selfish and cruel. The canyon, in its perfect impersonal wisdom, does not argue. It simply takes the energy of your shout and reflects it back to you. And the echo that returns to your ears is a hostile place. People are selfish and cruel. You will then proceed through your day with your awareness tuned to this frequency, and you will find evidence everywhere to confirm the reality of your echo. You will notice the rude driver, the dismissive cashier, the critical colleague, and you will say to yourself, "See, I was right." You have forgotten that you were the one who shouted first. If you stand at the edge of the canyon and shout from a place of deep insecurity and fear, "I am not worthy of love. I will surely be abandoned," the canyon echoes back, "Not worthy of love. I will surely be abandoned." You will then unconsciously attract partners and friends who are incapable of true intimacy or commitment, and when the inevitable abandonment occurs, you will say, "See, it always happens this way." You have mistaken the echo for the original sound. Now, imagine you have done the deep work. You have come home to yourself. You stand at the edge of the canyon from a place of grounded peace and compassion, and you shout into the void, "I am loved. I am connected. The world is filled with grace and beauty." And the echo that returns, in 1,000 different forms, is loved, connected, grace and beauty. You begin to notice the kindness of strangers, the profound beauty of a sunset, the synchronicities that guide your path. The canyon has not changed. You have. This is the karma of connection in its most practical form. If you consistently approach your relationships from a broadcast of distrust, assuming that others will eventually let you down, your guarded, suspicious energy will be felt. Others will sense this wall of suspicion and will either become defensive or simply keep their distance. They will not feel safe to be open and authentic with you. The connection will wither, and you will have proven your original belief. You are the author of your own prophecy. If your predominant broadcast is one of complaint and criticism, if you are constantly finding fault with your friends, your family, your partner, this harsh, dissonant energy makes true intimacy impossible. No one feels safe to be imperfect in the presence of a constant judge. You will then lament that you lack deep, meaningful relationships, never realizing that your own judgmental frequency repels the very thing you claim to want. But if you do the work to change your broadcast, if you learn to emanate the frequency of compassion, of seeing the innocent intention, of holding others in a space of non-judgmental acceptance, then the echo must by law change. When you offer the world a clear signal of love, the world must by law reflect love back to you. You will begin to attract people who are capable of the depth you now embody. Existing relationships will transform as people feel safe to soften and open in your presence. You will discover that you did not need to find the right people. You simply needed to become the right person. The entire journey is an inside-out job. To understand this law is to take the ultimate step in personal evolution, the step into radical responsibility. It is the complete and final abandonment of the victim mindset. There are no accidents. There are no villains. The recurring painful patterns in your relational life are not a string of bad luck or a sign that the world is against you. They are simply echoes. They are the universe, in its infinite compassion, showing you a perfect reflection of the shout you have been sending out, so that you might have the opportunity to change it. This is not a call for self-blame. Blame is just another low-frequency shout into the canyon. It is a call to empowerment. If you are the source of the echo, then you hold all the power. You are no longer a victim of the canyon's sounds. You are the singer of the song. You can, at any moment, choose to change your tune. The practice is to look at the echoes in your life, the difficult relationships and recurring conflicts, and to ask with deep and humble curiosity, what is the original shout in me that is creating this echo? What frequency have I been broadcasting to call this experience to me? This understanding liberates you from the ego's obsession with fairness. The ego screams, "It's not fair that they treated me this way." But the universe is not concerned with the ego's childish notions of fairness. The canyon does not care if your shout is fair or unfair. It only echoes. The law of karma is not moral. It is mathematical. It doesn't give you what you deserve. It gives you what you are a vibrational match to. This is the most liberating truth of all, for it takes your focus off the impossible task of trying to change others and places it squarely on the one thing you have absolute control over, your own state of being. The karma of connection is, therefore, the universe's most elegant and compassionate teaching tool. It is a perfect, living mirror, constantly showing you the quality of your own consciousness. To create a life filled with beautiful, loving, and supportive connections, you must become a source of beautiful, loving, and supportive energy. To receive love, you must broadcast love. To experience connection, you must emanate connection. You are the energetic cause. Your relational life is the effect. This infallible law now places the power to create your reality entirely in your hands. It invites you to become a masterful artist of your own energy. And so, the ultimate question arises. If you want to create the most beautiful echo imaginable, an echo of profound peace, boundless love, and divine intimacy, what is the highest, purest, most powerful frequency you could possibly transmit? The answer lies in one final, transformative shift in perception. It is the practice of looking at any being, in any circumstance, and seeing beyond their personality, beyond their wound, beyond their ego, to the indestructible spark of the divine that resides within them. We are now ready for the practice of seeing God in everyone. We have walked the great path of connection. We have journeyed inward to the silent riverbed of our being, and outward to the farthest star, feeling our kinship with all life. We have learned the infallible cosmic law of karma, the law of the echo, which teaches us that the reality we experience is a perfect reflection of the energy we transmit. This places the ultimate creative power in our own hands. It presents us with a profound choice in every moment. What is the quality of the shout we wish to send into the canyon of existence? What is the highest, purest, and most transformative frequency we can possibly broadcast? We have already learned to see past the ego's fortress, to recognize the sacred wound, and to perceive the innocent intention. Now, we must take the final step. We must learn to look even deeper, past all the layers of psychology, personality, and personal history, to the very essence of being itself. We must train our perception to see what the mystics of all ages have seen. We must undertake the practice of seeing God in everyone. Before we proceed, let us release the limitations of the word God. If that word does not resonate with you, replace it. Call it Source, Universal Consciousness, Being, Spirit, Brahman, the Tao, the One Life, or simply the Divine Spark. The name is the finger pointing at the moon. It is not the moon itself. What we are speaking of is the formless, timeless, intelligent, and loving awareness that is the source and substance of all that exists. It is the silent, indivisible reality from which the entire universe arises. This practice is the conscious choice to see that one reality as the truest identity of every being you meet, overriding the distracting and temporary illusion of their personality. To grasp this, let us use our final and most important metaphor, that of the ocean and its waves. Imagine that the one universal consciousness Goddess, the ocean itself. It is vast, deep, eternal, and fundamentally peaceful. It is the whole, the ultimate reality. Now, imagine that every individual being, every human, every animal, every tree, every star is a wave rising up from the surface of this one ocean. Each wave is unique. It has a specific form, a specific size, a specific character, and a specific lifespan. Some waves are gentle, sparkling ripples that barely disturb the surface. Others are towering, powerful, crashing breakers that roar with immense force. Some are graceful and beautiful, others are chaotic and destructive. No two waves are exactly alike. This is the world of form, the world of personalities. The entire human tragedy, the source of all conflict and suffering, stems from one single error in perception. A wave that has forgotten it is the ocean. This is the state of the ego. The wave becomes identified with its temporary form. It believes it is a separate, isolated entity, defined by its height, its power, and its position relative to other waves. It fears its own eventual dissolution back into the ocean, which it calls death, and so it lives in a state of perpetual anxiety, competing with other waves, judging them, fearing them, trying to prove its superiority. This is wave consciousness. The spiritual journey, in its entirety, is the process of the wave remembering its true nature. It is the moment the wave awakens to the fact that its very substance, its essence, is not waveness, but water, and that this water is the same water that constitutes every other wave. The wave does not cease to be a wave, but it now knows itself as the ocean, expressing itself for a time as this particular form. This is ocean consciousness. The practice of seeing God in everyone is the practice of cultivating ocean consciousness. It is the discipline of looking at another person, another wave, and choosing not to focus on the temporary and often turbulent shape of their waveform. Instead, you train yourself to see through the form to the substance. You look at the angry, crashing breaker of a person, and while acknowledging its destructive form, you make a conscious effort to recognize the vast, peaceful ocean that is its true and only source. You see the divine water, temporarily caught in a pattern of turbulence. How do we actually do this? How do we train our eyes to see the unseen essence within the all-too-visible form? First, you must recognize it in yourself. You cannot genuinely see the ocean in another wave if you are still convinced that you are only a wave. This is the culmination of our homecoming. The practice is to sit in silence, to feel past the chatter of your thoughts and the turmoil of your emotions, and to connect with the deep, still, silent awareness that is witnessing it all. That witnessing presence is your connection to the ocean. It is the feeling of God within you. Acknowledge it, honor it, rest in it. Know without a doubt that you are the ocean expressing itself as you. Once you have established this anchor in your own being, you can begin to practice looking for it in others. Start where it is easy. Look at a person you love, unconditionally, a child, a partner, a cherished friend. Look past their personality, their habits, their roles. Gaze into their eyes and try to feel the silent, living presence that animates them. Feel the life force, the spark of being that is looking back at you, silently, in your heart. Acknowledge it. I see the divine light in you. Practice this with a beloved pet, with a beautiful flower, with a majestic tree. Let your heart become accustomed to recognizing the signature of the one life in all its forms. Then comes the ultimate practice, the master's work. You must learn to see the divine essence in the difficult other, the person who has betrayed you, the family member who drives you to distraction, the political figure you despise, the criminal on the news. How is it possible to see God in them? Here, we must be precise. This practice is not spiritual bypassing. It is not a denial of reality. You must first acknowledge the form of the wave. You see, without illusion, that their actions are destructive, that their words are hurtful, that their energy is dissonant. You do not pretend the crashing breaker is a gentle ripple. You acknowledge the harm and the pain that the form is causing. Then, having acknowledged the form, you perform a radical, conscious shift of perception. You hold the intention as an act of will and faith to look deeper. You say to yourself, beneath this wounded, distorted, and painful form, the very same life force that animates me also animates them. The same ocean that is my source is also their source. Their wave has become twisted by profound wounds, by layers of fear, by a deep forgetting of its true nature, but its essential substance is, and can only be, the divine water of being. This can be framed as a silent prayer or a powerful affirmation. When confronted with a difficult person, either in reality or in your memory, hold their image in your mind and silently speak from your heart to theirs. The self in me recognizes and honors the self in you, even if you have forgotten it. The light in me bows to the light in you. This is the true meaning of Namaste. It is the most powerful act you can perform. It is not for them. It is for you. It is an act of profound energetic hygiene, a way of cleansing your own perception so that you are not poisoned by hatred or resentment. You are choosing to align yourself not with their dysfunctional waveform, but with their eternal oceanic essence. This practice is the highest and most potent form of karmic action. When you interact with another being from the default assumption that they are a separate, flawed ego, you are shouting separation and flaw into the canyon of life. The universe, in its perfection, echoes that reality back to you. But when you train yourself to interact with another from the deep recognition of their divine spark, you are shouting unity, wholeness, and divinity into the canyon. This is the highest frequency you can possibly transmit. The law of karma dictates that this reality must then be reflected back to you. You will begin to live in a world where the divine in others awakens in your presence. People will unconsciously offer you their best selves because your perception is a powerful, silent invitation for their own divinity to come forward. By seeing God in everyone, you begin to co-create a heaven in your own field of experience. This, then, is the final stage of empathy. It is the ultimate purpose of connection. It is not just to feel better or to have more harmonious relationships. It is to use our connections as a training ground for this ultimate perception. It is to see our relationships as a sacred practice, a yoga designed to awaken us to the one undivided reality. It is the shift from seeing others as personalities to be navigated, to seeing them as divine beings, to be recognized and revered. As you become more established in this practice, as you look for the divine spark in every pair of eyes, a final subtle veil begins to thin. The very act of seeing God in another still implies a duality aseer and a thing being seen. It implies a you over here, recognizing the divinity in them over there. But what happens when the light in you so fully and completely recognizes the light in them that the space between you collapses? What happens when you realize the seer and the seen are one and the same light? We are now at the very edge of the map of language, at the threshold of the ultimate realization. We are ready to know, not just as a concept, but as a living experience, that there is no other. We have come to the final threshold of our journey together. We have walked the path from the fortress of the ego to the open field of the heart. We have learned to see the sacred wound, the innocent intention, and finally, the radiant spark of the divine in everyone we meet. This practice of seeing God in the other is the highest, most potent frequency we can transmit into the world. It is the most powerful act of connection possible within the framework of a self and another. But it is still a bridge, and a bridge, by its nature, implies a chasm. Now, we must take the final step. We must walk to the center of that bridge and witness the dissolution of the chasm itself. We must let go of the last and most subtle illusion, the illusion that there is an other at all. For as long as there is a you over here, seeing the divine in them over there, a trace of separation remains. It is the thinnest of all veils, the ghost of duality, but it is a veil nonetheless. It is the final echo of the ego's story of a separate self. The ultimate realization, the truth to which this entire journey has been leading, is the experiential knowing of a simple, staggering, and liberating fact. There is number other. Let us return, one last time, to the ocean and its waves. Throughout our journey, we have cultivated the perspective of a wave that has awakened to its true nature. We have practiced being a wave that knows, without a doubt, that its essence is the ocean. From this awakened state, we looked out at all the other waves, the gentle ripples, the crashing breaker sand. We practiced seeing the same oceanic essence in them. This was the practice of seeing God in everyone. But now, the perspective must shift one last time from the wave that knows to the ocean itself. Imagine this. You are not the wave. You were never the wave. You are the ocean. And you, the ocean, are temporarily experiencing reality through the focal point of a particular waveform. And you, the ocean, are simultaneously looking out through the eyes of that wave at yourself, appearing as another wave. The one who is looking and the one who is being looked at are the same being, the same substance, the same consciousness. The seer and the seen are one. The lover and the beloved are one. The one who offers compassion and the one who receives it are two hands of the same single body. This is not a poetic idea. It is the fundamental nature of reality. The great mystic Rumi pointed to this truth when he said, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop." Let the profound weight of this statement settle into you. The old perspective, that of the humble ego, is that you are a small, finite drop, a tiny part of a vast, divine whole. This is a step towards truth, but it is not the final truth. The final truth is that the entire, undivided totality of universal consciousness is present, whole and complete, within the vessel of your individual awareness. You are not a part of God. You are a holographic expression of the entirety of God. And so is the person sitting opposite you. The same infinite ocean is contained within both drops. What does this realization mean for our quest to build empathy? It means the quest itself comes to a graceful end, for its very premise is revealed to be a beautiful illusion. You no longer need to build a bridge of empathy to another person, because you realize with unshakable certainty that there was never a chasm to be bridged. You were standing on both sides all along. The other person is not separate from you. They are you, experiencing a different dream, wearing a different costume in the grand cosmic play. Your interactions with the world are transformed. They are no longer a series of negotiations between separate egos, but a form of sacred dance, a divine play, what the Vedic scriptures call Leela. It is the one self playing hide and seek with itself for the sheer joy of discovery. When you encounter another's pain, you are not a separate, compassionate self feeling sorry for them. You are the one consciousness feeling its own suffering through one of its countless temporary expressions. Your compassion is no longer a choice or a practice. It becomes an instantaneous, effortless, and absolute reflex. It is the self, simply and naturally loving itself. When you witness another's joy, you feel it as your own, with no filter of comparison or envy. Their success does not diminish you, for you know that it is the one self celebrating its own magnificence through another one of its focal points. Their joy is your joy. Their liberation is your liberation. The lifelong search for connection, the ache of existential homelessness, is finally and completely extinguished. The search is predicated on the belief that what you are looking for is outside of you. When the seeker merges with the sought, the search is over. The desire to be seen, to be understood, to be loved by another is replaced by the simple, profound, and peaceful state of being love itself. The fear of loneliness, which has been the ghost haunting your every relationship, is not just healed, it becomes a conceptual impossibility. Loneliness requires a one who is alone. But when you know, in the core of your being, that there is only the one, the very idea of being alone loses all meaning. This is the ultimate homecoming. It is the realization that your true home is not even the sacred space within you. Your true home is the entire universe. Your true identity is not the wave, not even the wave that knows it is the ocean. Your true identity is the ocean itself. You are as vast as the cosmos, as ancient as time, as indestructible as consciousness itself. You are not the temporary character in the story. You are the silent, aware page upon which the entire story is written. And so, our journey of connection has led us here. It has been a journey of progressive disillusionment, a sacred stripping away of all the identities that were never true. We began by dismantling the illusion of the ego's fortress. We dismantled the illusion that our wounds separated us, realizing instead they were the gateway that connected us. We dismantled the illusion of judgment. We dismantled the illusion of a separate God. And now, we dismantle the final and most fundamental illusion of all, the illusion of the other. This is not an end. It is the great beginning. It is the beginning of a life lived from the direct experience of this non-dual truth. Every moment now becomes an opportunity to recognize yourself. Every interaction becomes a chance to love yourself. Every challenge becomes the play of the one consciousness, dancing with itself. Look into the eyes of a stranger. You are looking at yourself. Listen to the song of a bird. You are listening to yourself. Feel the solidity of the earth beneath your feet. You are feeling yourself. The path is complete. The bridge has been built, and you have walked across it only to find that you were standing on both sides all along. There is nothing and no one in all of creation that is not you. There is no other. Welcome home. And so the journey comes to its gentle close. We return from the silent, oceanic depths of being, back to the shore of this present moment, to the simple miracle of this breath. The great forgetting has been remembered. The exile is over. You are home. Do not try to hold on to all the words, all the concepts, all the steps we have taken. The purpose of the journey was not to fill your mind with new knowledge, but to awaken a timeless knowing that has always been dormant within you. It was a journey to remember a language you were born speaking, a language the soul has never forgotten. The grammar of this language is silence. Its vocabulary is presence. Its syntax is compassion. And its one undeniable truth is that all of creation is a single, unified self, speaking to itself, loving itself, and knowing itself through the mirror of its countless forms. You are a word in this divine language. You are a sacred verse in this cosmic poem. If you are to carry anything with you from this space, let it be only this. Let this be your practice, your mantra, and your North Star. When you look upon another being, whether in love, in conflict, or in passing, let this silent recognition be your first offering. I see you. And in seeing them, in truly listening with the empty bowl of your presence, you will inevitably find the reflection. And so, the recognition deepens. I see myself in you. And as you rest in that shared recognition, the space between you dissolves into the warmth of a truth that was always there, waiting beneath the surface. We are one. This is all you need. This is the entire path in 3 simple movements of the heart. Now, for a final moment, simply be. If it is safe to do so, allow your eyes to gently close. Feel the quiet, steady hum of your own aliveness. Feel the gentle rhythm of your breath, a tide of generosity rising and falling without any effort from you. Feel the solid support of the earth beneath you, a silent testament to your unconditional belonging. You have been searching for peace for so long, looking for it in the world outside, but the search is over. The peace you were seeking is the peace you are. It is the stillness that is listening to these words right now. Rest in that. You are home. You are peace. You are one.